The note warned that the world beyond could be an opportunity or a disaster, and that it should be approached with caution. A pendant that opens a world. That is not an item. That is a rumor with a price tag. I asked her where she had gotten it. She told me I did not need to know and that I only needed to say what it was. So I looked at her, held the look, and told her it was a key to a small world. She tried very hard to stay flat, and I still caught the flicker in her eyes. She said it seemed I really did have an information skill. She had not known the item's function herself, since it had been given to her by a friend. Thinking back to the circumstances in which she had first met that friend, she found my answer entirely believable. Then she said she had changed her mind, and that she needed me to help her do something. If it succeeded, she would give me the house and keep my identity quiet. She had thought about her friend's situation and decided my investigation skill was likely to help, and she was not willing to give up anything that raised the odds of a rescue. I asked her what the job was and how dangerous it was. She said it was saving a friend, that there was danger, and that she was not sure how much. I thought about it and agreed. It got me the house, and it kept me in contact with Dillis. Now that I knew there was a void jade pendant in her possession, I was even less willing to let her walk away. I also had a feeling that a friend of hers would not turn out to be anyone simple, and that the pendant was tied to that person somehow. We signed the contract and locked the cooperation in, and I added one clause of my own. If the job succeeded, Dillis owed me one favor at a time of my choosing. She agreed instantly, without a second of hesitation, and the speed of it surprised me. Whoever this friend is, she matters more to Dillis than the house did. I asked when she planned to make the rescue. She said tonight, then held out her hand and told me to give her 30 gold stone. I asked why. She said she needed it to bid for her friend, and there was open hatred in her eyes when she said it. And she added that if the bid failed, they would simply take her. I said the word slave out loud like a question, since I could not imagine what kind of slave would be worth 30 gold stone. She answered flat as a table that it was an angel. I stood there with nothing in my head at all. I blurted out that an angel could not possibly be captured, and heard how stupid it sounded before the sentence was finished. An angel that has not grown up yet is not strong, and there is nothing shocking about a weak thing being taken. Dillis confirmed it and said her friend was still very weak. I asked whether the two of us alone could really handle this. She looked at me confused and asked whether I had other helpers. I had been about to say that I did, then thought better of it, since revealing what I actually was would only invite a different set of problems. So I put on an exasperated face and clarified that I had been asking whether she had other helpers. She said no because she trusted nobody else, and added that we did not necessarily have to take the angel by force, since we might simply outbid everyone. That was reasonable enough, so I nodded. Then she glanced at me and asked whether I intended to keep wearing the fake face. I smiled, let my real appearance come back, sat down on the chair and asked where the auction was being held. She said it was in Elf City. I repeated the name, which turned out to be a mistake because she rolled her eyes at me. She asked whether I had honestly never heard of Elf City, and whether I was even from the underground world. When I only smiled and said nothing, her expression froze, and she asked whether I was seriously not from down here. I told her I came from a tribe on the surface and had stumbled onto the underground world by accident. That landed for her, and she said in that case she would explain the place to me. The underground world has 3 powerful forces, which are Dwarf City, Elf City, and the Goblin Tribe, and all 3 control passages up to the surface. Beyond those 3, there are smaller tribes scattered through the dark, surviving by hunting the demon beasts that live down there. I asked whether the 3 forces were really that strong. She said that of the 3, setting the Goblin Tribe aside, both the Blood Elf Queen and the Dwarf King were legendary heroes, and that she did not know their specific strength. When she named the 2 of them, something like longing surfaced in her eyes without her meaning it to. I took a slow breath. 2 legendary heroes. Even if the Blood Elf Queen and the Dwarf King had not reached Emperor Tyr, they could not be far from it, and there was every chance they had already crossed. 2 things like that living a short walk from my territories of bombs sitting under my floorboards, and it made my scalp crawl. It also helped that I still had other options open to me, because otherwise I would have been sick over it. Worse, this was only the underground world. I had not finished exploring Heya Island itself, and there was no reason to assume the surface held nothing comparable. I thought about Elder Mok, that mysterious expert, and accepted that Heya Island was not remotely as simple as I had assumed when I planted my flag on it. Bringing that whole island under my hand was going to be a long, ugly road. I have never once been handed a short one. I asked why the people of Elf City had taken her friend. She corrected me and said it was not Elf City but the slave capture team. They roam the underground world making a living by catching and selling people, and they send the good stock to the auction house at Elf City. The hatred in her face when she talked about them was not hidden at all. I asked whether we would be able to get out of Elf City even if we did rescue her friend inside it. She told me not to worry because the auction house makes so many people nervous that it was deliberately built outside Elf City and jointly managed by the 3 major forces. That let me breathe. The underground world is not small, so once we had the person we could vanish into it and be hard to find, and if it truly came apart we could run for the surface. We spent the rest of the afternoon talking, and by the end I had a fairly complete picture of the place. Night arrived without either of us noticing. Dillis explained that when night comes to the underground world, the fluorescent grass dims, and that is how everyone down there tells time. We packed up, walked out of Dwarf City, and climbed into a carriage pulled by a cave beast bound for Elf City. On the road, I sent word up to Windsor that I would not be home tonight, so nobody would worry. We paid the driver and got off, and the first thing in front of me was Elf City. Dwarf City's walls are dark yellow all the way around, while Elf City's walls are dark yellow all the way around, while Elf City is black from top to bottom, with occasional patches of dark red that give the whole place a bloody look. Dillis pointed to a building standing a short way off from the walls and told me that was the auction house. It was a black circular structure, about 4 meters high with a footprint that was not particularly large. Next to the Yeonjong Trading Company, it looked like a shed beside a cathedral. I nodded and walked toward it with her. The person at the door stopped us before we reached it and told us admission was 1 purple stone each. I looked him over. He stood close to 1 meter 80, with grayish-white skin and no hair at all, essentially a person made out of stone. His information came back as cave stone human, excellent quality commoner, not a professional. That did not surprise me, since nobody sane starts trouble at an auction house, and there was no reason to put muscle on the door. I handed over 2 purple stones and walked in with Dillis. I was wearing a dwarf's face again, but not the Heya face, because that identity was still useful, and I was not about to burn it. A woman came toward us as soon as we were inside, wearing a transparent black gauze dress that was not doing the job a dress is normally hired for. She stopped in front of us and asked, very respectfully, whether we wanted a private room. Her pupils and her hair were both light red, and even the tips of her long pointed ears carried the same color. A blood elf, then, which made her one of the people who run Elf City. I nodded slightly and told her to lead the way. She brightened, having decided this dwarf was rich and that tonight might be a good night for her, and her manner got several degrees warmer as she asked us to follow. Walking behind her, I could not shake the feeling that her hips were doing more work than walking strictly required. I decided she was testing me. Dillis made a short, contemptuous noise behind me, which snapped me back. I pulled my eyes off the blood elf and privately admitted that basic biology still had a vote in my decisions. I glanced at Dillis, shrugged, and said it only proved I was a normal man. She glared and told me that beggars could not be choosers, and it was clear she found it beneath me to be interested in a blood elf who dressed like that. I ignored her and looked around the venue instead. The auction house was circular, with rows of seats running all the way around a circular stage in the dead center. Take the stage out and it would have been an arena and nothing else. She led us up to the second floor above the ordinary seating and into a room that held nothing but a table and a few chairs. We sat, and it is worth saying that the chairs in that room were purpose-built for a body my current height, which meant the auction house paid attention to its guests. Once I was seated, the blood elf stepped behind me, reached out and started working on my shoulders. That caught me off guard, since I had not expected the service to run that deep. I felt Dillis staring and did not stop her. I paid for the room. I intend to get the room. The hall filled steadily below us, and every so often another figure was escorted up to one of the second-floor rooms by another blood elf. I pointed at the crowd outside and asked whether she knew any of them. The rooms were built one way, so we could see out and nobody could see in, which is the same glass they use in the sort of hotel you do not tell your friends about. She pointed out one blood elf below and said that was the blood elf queen's guard commander. I looked immediately. This one was dressed normally by the standards of the building, showing a lot of pale skin but covering everything that mattered, and her hair was a noticeably deeper red than the rest. I read her, and it was not pleasant. Ellie, epic quality, level 24, king rank, strength 328, agility 334, defense 213, wisdom 283, mana 2830. Profession, hero and bloody archer. Her skill list ran 3-star volley, plain hand, bloodthirsty arrow, burst arrow, blood-binding arrow, heaven-piercing strike, phantom arrow, and chasing arrow. For gears, she carried blue feather boots, purple tiger blood armor, and a purple blood moon bow, with no talent listed at all. Race, blood elf. That is a speed and attack archer sitting at the very top of king rank, and she scared me. If a mere guard commander is built like that, I did not want to think about what the blood elf queen was, though I could make a guess. My guess was Emperor Tyr. With that woman in the building, the two of us taking anybody by force was a fantasy. Then my host pointed at a dwarf with a full head of golden hair and told me that was the captain of the City Lord's Guard in Dwarf City. He stood about 1 meter 40, wore a suit of black armor, and had a face like a closed door. Gyeokdal, epic quality, level 24, king rank, strength 337, agility 202, defense 323, wisdom 291, mana 2910, Profession, hero and great axe warrior, with rage, heavy blow, furious chop, horizontal slash, great axe body transformation, and 10 axes for skills. Blue soaring bird boots, purple profound elephant armor, a purple profound elephant great axe. No talent. Race earth cave dwarves. Another wall with legs, in other words. Whatever plan we had walked in with was now officially a bidding plan, since force had stopped being a word that applied here. I had not expected an angel to drag out this class of buyer. Then she spoke again, calling me lord and telling me that the next one was the great elder of the goblin tribe, whose standing was second only to the goblin clan leader. I looked at him with no expression left in my face at all, because by that point I had gone numb. Wajiro, epic quality, level 20, king rank, strength 224, agility 218, defense 170, wisdom 212, mana 2120. Profession, hero and alchemist and magic pattern master. His skills ran explosive hammer, armor crafting at master level, magic pattern engraving at master level, and magic blood concoction at master level, plus mineral identification, weapon forging and alchemy tools at high level. For gear he carried a purple snow eagle carver, purple fang lion armor, a purple snake pattern ring, and a purple snake blood belt. No talent. Race goblin. Something in that panel caught my eye, and at first it looked like good news. He was only level 20, 4 full levels under the other 2, which is a wide gap. Then I read his profession and his skills and his gear again, and my stomach dropped. Because this was a technical talent. A complete set of purple equipment on his own body and 3 master-level crafting skills meant this goblin could make purple equipment, which made him the most dangerous person in the building, and it was not close. Ellie and Kyopdal were terrifying as individuals, but Wajiro could raise the floor of an entire race. On top of that, there was no reason to assume his personal combat strength was any lower than theirs. I refuse to believe a master alchemist walks around without something horrible in his pocket. He was the one I truly could not see, and what I cannot see is what kills me. Once the 3 of them had gone into their rooms, I let out a breath and looked over at Dillis, and her face had gone sour. She had reached the same conclusion I had. Worse, even if we won the bidding cleanly, there was a real chance one of them would come after us quietly afterward. I told her we should do our best, and she nodded, because there was nothing left for her but hoping for a miracle. The auction opened. A blood elf in a proper long dress walked out onto the stage, and her voice carried through the whole venue on some kind of amplification device. Even our room had a small speaker feeding her voice in from outside. She welcomed everyone to the Three Kings auction house, said she would waste no time, and told the room to look at the first item. Behind her came another blood elf in strict, fully covering attire, carrying a wooden tray. I assumed the change in wardrobe was deliberate, so that the customer's attention stayed on the merchandise instead of the staff. An alchemy tool threw the tray's contents up as a huge image of light and shadow, and what sat on it was a white porcelain bottle. The auctioneer told the room it held energy-boosting pills, saw the blank looks coming back at her, and explained that their purpose was to raise attributes. The hall came apart. Something that raises attributes is a heavenly treasure by any measure, and there is nobody alive who does not want one. I was envious too, since I had not expected to run into something like that down here. For me, it would have been worth more than for anyone else in that room. Everyone else gains 1 point when they gain a point, and with the War God talent, 1 point becomes 2, and sometimes 5. Unfortunately, I was here to buy a person, and a hero like Dillis was worth more to me than a stat line. The auctioneer kept twisting the knife, explaining that heavenly treasures give random effects, while energy-boosting pills raise attributes at a fixed rate. Then she added that these were blue quality, equal to a profound grade heavenly treasure in effect but stronger in practice, and that a single pill raises 10 attribute points. She did not even let the room finish reacting before saying there were 3 pills in the bottle, for 30 points total. Eyes lit up all along the second floor. She set the opening price at 2 gold stone with no cap on increments and turned the room loose. Somebody called 2 gold and 2 purple immediately, then 2 gold and 10 purple, then 2 gold and 30 purple, and the number rolled past 3 gold in almost no time. None of that surprised me. Anything that raises attributes is worth whatever it costs, because strength is the foundation under everything else, and a strong enough person can make money anywhere. Then someone on the second floor jumped at a full gold stone to 4, and I traced the voice to Gyokdal's room. A far more pleasant voice added 50 purple stone on top, and that was Ellie. Then Wajiro laughed, asked the 2 of them to give him some face and let him have it, and bid 5 gold stone. The other 2 went silent. I sat there wondering whether the goblin's word really carried that much weight. And then it clicked. Because Wajiro forges equipment. When you eventually need good gear, you go to the goblins, and letting the great elder of the goblins owe you a favor now pays far better later than a bottle of pills does. The auctioneer did not waste a syllable and called it 3 times before closing, then congratulated the buyer. That was a strong open, and the room stayed hot afterward. The lots that followed were resource cards, iron ore and tear diamond and purple sand, one after another. I noticed that resource cards came through in real volume down here, and that the prices were generally low, which is probably a function of the underground world itself. That made me want the place even more. Take the underground world and my territory never worries about minerals again. The auction wound towards its end, and the energy in the hall climbed instead of dropping, because everyone knew the last lots were the real ones, and that even losing them was worth watching. The auctioneer announced the long-awaited finale, said there were 2 final items tonight, and started the first. 2 women walked out onto the stage, and not one eye in the building was on the blood elf leading. Every eye was on the woman behind her. It was an angel. I had never seen a real one before, and next to the angel that appears in Windsor's skill, this one was plainly a lesser thing. But she was still the first. She was barely dressed, wrapped in white cloth and nothing else, with a pair of folded white wings on her back. Even so, standing beside the blood elf, she gave off something the rest of that building did not have, and the word for it is holiness. The auctioneer confirmed what everyone could already see, and looked thoroughly pleased with herself. Auctioning an angel is the sort of thing an auctioneer tells stories about for the rest of her life, and she was also visibly vibrating about the last lot still to come. Then she said the angel was only ordinary quality, that her level was 6, and that her strength was nothing to speak of. The hall erupted. On the Lord continent, angels are a high race with powerful talent and powerful bodies. If these people had not been looking straight at her, they would have assumed the auctioneer was lying to them. The disappointment did not cool anybody's appetite. Having an angel standing behind you is a status object whether she can fight or not. A weak one was actually good news for the ordinary buyers, since the important figures might not bother competing. I glanced sideways at Dillis, genuinely surprised. She had told me her friend was not strong. She had not told me the girl was level 6. That was good for me too, since weak meant cheap, at least in theory. Then a worse thought arrived. The commanders of the 3 kings were all sitting in this building on the same night, and there was a mystery lot still to come. It occurred to me that none of them had come here for the angel at all. The auctioneer picked exactly that moment to remind the room that the angel might be weak, but that this was the underground world, and to ask how an angel could possibly turn up down here. The hall exploded into speculation, and my face fell, because the price was about to become a problem. It clicked for me at the same time it clicked for everyone else. Dillis was carrying a void jade pendant that opens a void small world, and Dillis knew this angel personally, and it did not take much to line those up. The auctioneer confirmed the shape of it without knowing any of the details. She told the room the angel was almost certainly hiding an enormous secret, and that next to the secret, the angel herself was worth comparatively little. She had the entire hall by the throat and she knew it, smiling down at them with real satisfaction. Her people had simply never found a way to make the angel talk. According to the slave capture team though, someone was behind the girl, because when they took her, they could clearly feel that they were being followed, which made the whole lot a trap. Sell the angel, put watchers on whoever buys her, and see who surfaces. Collect the sale price on top of it, and why not? That was the thinking behind the smile. She set the opening bid at 5 goldstone and turned it loose. 6, 7, 8, with voices rising and falling all over the hall, and a few people shouting numbers purely because the room was shouting numbers. Then Jokedoll's voice came down from above and said 20 goldstone. Wajiro laughed and said 25, then added that he wanted to know whether there was anything worth learning from the angel race's equipment. Ellie said 30, chuckled, and said the girl was pretty enough that she would keep her as a maid. The hall went dead silent. Everyone in it knew those 3 voices and knew better than to stand in front of them. Inside Ellie's room, one of her blood elves asked her whether the person behind the angel would really show himself if they were the ones bidding. Ellie said carelessly that it did not matter, and that she would simply take the angel herself. The attendant pointed out that this did not fit the plan. Ellie answered that the plan had already stopped fitting, since she had not expected Kyokdal and Wajiro to move, and that under no circumstances could the angel end up with the dwarves or the goblins. There was cold light in her eyes when she said it. Originally, the angel was supposed to be the only final lot, purely as bait to draw out whoever stood behind her. Then Dwarf City had contributed a treasure that reshaped the entire evening. Next to something that real, a rumored secret could wait. Down on the stage, the auctioneer was quietly rattled, because this was not the plan either, and she could not understand why Lord Ellie of all people had started bidding. She did know that she could not let the room go cold, so she called out the standing bid of 30 goldstone and asked for higher. The price had already passed anything she had projected, since the only tangible value on that stage was the girl's race in her face. What actually bothered her was that the money was coming out of Ellie's pocket, which made it a transfer from one hand to the other. It was worse than that, in fact, since the auction house's profits are split evenly among the 3 kings, which made it a loss. Kyokdal laughed out loud and said 35. Wajiro raised it to 40. Ellie's face went hard, because the 2 of them were driving the number up on purpose to bleed her, so she would have less to spend on the last lot. She sat there weighing it. The final item mattered more, but letting either of the other two races have the angel carried its own risk. Even if the odds of anyone ever cracking the secret were tiny, tiny is not zero. Then a strange voice bid 50 gold stone, and her face lit up, because the fish had finally taken the bait. That was me. I had watched the auctioneer's stunned expression earlier and worked out that this whole lot was a fishing operation, and I bid anyway because it was a trap I had to walk into. I had a signed contract with Dillis. Beyond that, there was the angel, the void jade pendant, and the small world sitting behind it, and I was not capable of letting all three walk out the door. Bigger risk, bigger harvest. I was also not unarmed, since I had teleportation formation blueprints in my ring and had already planted one inside Dillis's house. If the night became unwinnable, I would use it, escape, and destroy the receiving end behind me, which should be enough to get clear. My bid rattled the entire building. Every head in the hall turned toward my room, trying to work out who had the nerve to bid against the commanders of the three kings. 50 gold stone is a fortune to almost anybody alive, and the room wanted to know who had it lying around. Dillis was staring at me in open shock, having had no idea I was that rich, and the shock turned into something much better very quickly. For the first time tonight, her friend was actually reachable. As for the blood elf standing behind me, the way she was looking at me now would have melted metal. Kyokdal bid 55 gold stone. I swore in my head because I was running out of money. Wajiro came in right behind him at 60 gold stone. The number kept climbing and my ceiling did not move with it. Since when does showing off cost this much? I called 70 gold stone, and I said it lightly, so that nobody in that building could read a thing off my voice. Inside I was shaking, because that was everything. I had just spent the money I was saving for my own coffin. The venue went silent, and I sat there in my own anxiety waiting for someone to top me, and nobody made a sound. The auctioneer recovered and called 70 gold stone, once, twice, and a third time, then congratulated me on acquiring the angel slave. The lot was over, but the noise I had made did not die down at all, and half the hall spent the next several minutes trying to work out who I was. In her room, Ellie smiled and said one word which was interesting, and then instructed her people to keep eyes on me. Kyokdal and Wajiro gave their subordinates the same order at almost the same moment. I did not know any of that was happening. I did know that I had to get out of the building fast, because once the auction ended and the crowd broke, leaving quietly would stop being an option. I was not going to use a teleportation array unless I absolutely had to, since I did not have many of them and every one I spend is one I no longer own. A blood elf led me down to a corner of the auction house where transactions are handled. Waiting there was another blood elf woman dressed about as thoroughly as the first one had been. There was a flicker of surprise in her eyes when she saw that the buyer was a dwarf. She smiled warmly, asked how she might address her distinguished guest, and introduced herself as Mia, the manager of the auction house. I told her she could call me Gipung, which I made up on the spot, since the name only had to last one night. She asked politely whether I wished to proceed with the transaction now, and I told her yes. Then she asked, smiling, whether I was sure I did not want to stay for the final lot, and mentioned that the rumor was it involved a heavenly mandate lord. That got my full attention, and I asked whether she could tell me what it was. She said it should be a territory core, and that with one you could establish a territory exactly the way a heavenly mandate lord does, which amounts to infinite possibilities. The emotions in her eyes while she said it were tangled, longing and yearning, and something underneath both that looked a lot like resentment. A territory core. Down here. I very carefully did not let my face do anything, and inside me the only question was where in the world they had gotten it. There are more secrets buried in this underground world than I have any idea about, and I have started to suspect that is going to be the theme of my life. Mia watched my expression shift and did not hold it against me since nobody hears that news and stays calm. She had personally watched the three most powerful rulers of the underground world get excited over the same item. I sighed and said, with as much fake regret as I could manage, that it was not something I could reach for. She looked at me with mild surprise, not having expected a dwarf named Gipung to see his own limits that clearly. Then again, a man who could put down 70 gold stone for a slave was obviously not a simple person. She told me I had no reason to regret anything, since I had already gained a great deal, and that I might yet obtain the secret behind the angel. I heard the probe inside that and answered as though I had not. I told her she did not need to comfort me and that I had no hope of getting any secret. I said I simply wanted the angel, and asked her who would not want to own something like that. Doubt moved across her face because I looked exactly like a man who did not recognize the girl he had just bought. She had no way of knowing that I genuinely had never seen the woman before in my life. She conceded the point with a smile and said she would take me to see my acquisition. I left Dillis outside, since putting the two of them in the same room in front of the staff would have unraveled everything in seconds. Mia and I walked into a room and found the angel sitting quietly on the edge of the bed. She was calm, with no sign of panic anywhere in her. I studied her while I could. Silver white hair, bare skin, silver white eyes that carried a dignity I could not account for. Then I read her, and everything I thought I understood about tonight fell over. Philotia, normal quality, level 6, soldier tier, strength 10, agility 10, defense 10, wisdom 10, mana 100, profession, hero and holy arbiter. Her skills are where it stopped making sense. The list ran Holy Light Sword, Angel Shield, Holy Slash and Holy Healing Art, Annihilation and Absolute Sanction. After those came Commandment, Domination, Angelic Pantheon, and Holy Light Soul Incineration Art. Equipment, none. Talents, Burning Essence, Holy Body and Martyrdom Detonation. Race, Angel Race. I stood there completely stunned with nothing but questions in my head. A white quality level 6 existence with base attributes averaging 10 points flat, and then that list of skills, and then 3 talents. 3. Everyone's talent slots are limited, and I know the rule because I have spent enough time studying my own. Soldier tier gives 1 slot, pushing your strength to general rank gives a second, and the third requires Emperor tier. So unless this woman had gotten lucky with extra talent slots the way I did, she had been a genuine Emperor tier existence before whatever happened to her happened. She is not a level 6 angel. She is the wreck of something enormous, and I just bought her for 70 gold stone. Once I could think again, I was flooded with a happiness that felt almost criminal, and Dillis suddenly did not seem quite so appealing by comparison. Mia read my expression as a man dazzled by a pretty face, and said nothing about it. Then she told me we could proceed, and produced a small white mark. I read it. It was a slave mark, and the description said that once used, the holder gains complete control over everything about the slave, up to and including whether she goes on living. I took out 70 gold stone and handed it over. Mia counted it, smiled and told me the angel was mine, then held the mark out to me. I reached for it, and the moment my fingers touched it, the mark turned into white light and sank straight into my palm. I had not confirmed anything. I had not activated anything. It fired on its own. I went very still and I looked at Mia and told her, flat and cold, that I needed an explanation. She smiled at me without a trace of concern and told me not to blame them, because they had done it for my own good. I asked whether that meant I was supposed to thank her, and by then I was genuinely furious, because there was obviously something wrong with that mark. She said thanks would not be necessary, still smiling, as though my anger simply had not registered with her at all. I looked at that delicate face and thought seriously about what it would take to kill her at a building full of king-rank commanders. I settled for telling her that I had not expected the Three Kings auction house to use methods like this, and that the experience had certainly broadened my education. Then I turned my back on her and walked over to Philotia. I could feel through the mark that it did control her, but not nearly as absolutely as the description had made it sound, which meant that breaking free of it was possible for her. I stopped in front of her and told her flatly to come with me. She did not move. A strange little smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, and at the same moment the slave mark reported her resistance to me. My scalp went tight, because I had just remembered Martyrdom Detonation sitting in her talent list. A Martyrdom Detonation from a former Emperor tier expert. I had no idea what it actually did, and the name alone was enough. I did not hesitate, and I said one word, which was Dylus. Mia's head turned, since she had no idea why I would say that name. Philotia went still and stared at me in surprise, and I nodded very slightly, glanced sideways at Mia, and told her that this was what she would be called from now on. She understood, said nothing more, stood up and moved obediently in behind me. Then I discovered that she was taller than me, close to 1.85 meters, which I had absolutely not expected. I told her we were leaving. Mia said something gracious about taking care and hoping to see me at the Three Kings auction house again, and I walked out without answering her. Behind me, her smile dropped away and her eyes flickered with whatever she was already planning. Dillis's face jumped when she saw the two of us, and she caught herself and locked it down, remembering what I had told her. I said it was time to go, and the three of us walked out of the auction house. Once we were well clear of the building, Dallas threw her arms around Philotia and said her name, telling her it had been a long time. Philotia was far steadier, hugging her gently back and telling her she had worked hard and that she had not expected to see her again. I noticed that Philotia's hand on Dillis's back was trembling slightly, which told me the calm was a performance and not a state. Then she let go, looked at me, and asked who I was. Dillis explained our arrangement, then turned to me and thanked me directly. She meant it. When she had recognized Kjokdal and the others and watched them start bidding, she had already given the whole thing up for dead. It had never occurred to her that I would be able to put 70 goldstone on the table. I waved it off and said it was simply our agreement, then told them there were two problems that needed solving right now. The first was that the auction house had tricked me into a slave mark bound to Philotia. Dillis made a shocked sound and demanded to know how that could have happened. Gratitude or not, she had not gone through all of this so her friend could end up somebody's property. Philotia said it was fine, that at worst she would just follow me, and that she believed I would not actually treat her as a slave. I said quickly that of course I would not, and that we were friends. I would not dare treat her as a slave either. If she decided to set off martyrdom detonation on a whim, there is not a single thing I could do about it. Dillis was still upset and asked whether that meant Felocia would have no freedom at all, and whether there was any way to break the mark. I told her I had already tried and that it could not be removed unless I died, and my face was not pleasant when I said it. What bothered me more was the why. This was clearly the auction house's doing, and I could not see the point of it if all they wanted was to chain the two of us together. Then it landed, and everything in me went tight, because there could easily be a tracking method built into that mark. I said it out loud, and Dillis said through her teeth that these people were genuinely despicable. Cold light moved through Felocia's eyes. I turned to Felocia without thinking about it, and asked whether she had a solution, because whatever she used to be, she had lived a great deal more than I had. She looked faintly surprised that I would ask her at all. Then she shook her head and said she did not have one either. So I said we should at least get away from here first, and asked whether she knew anywhere relatively safe. She nodded and said she did know a place, then added that if there really was a tracking mark inside, going there would accomplish nothing. I said it was all we had for now and that we were not even certain the tracking existed. One step at a time, because standing still is the only guaranteed way to lose. What I did not say out loud was that I could not go back to Dwarf City and absolutely could not go home. If there was a tracker on me, walking into my territory would be the same as mailing my address to 3 epic commanders. So the 3 of us did not hire any transport and traveled on our own legs, staying away from everyone we could. It bought us less than an hour. I watched 3 figures step down off a beast carriage and felt the bottom drop out of the plan, because that settled the question. There was a tracking mark inside the slave mark. I looked at Ellie and Kyoktol and Wajiro and ran through my options at speed, and every road ended at a wall. Even the teleportation array was worthless now, since as long as the tracker was on me it did not matter where I came out, only how long it took them to arrive. Kyoktol came forward first, grinning, and told me to come along quietly so I would not have to suffer when they used force. Ellie's face went cold, and she reminded him that this was the Blood Elves' operation, and asked whether he was seriously trying to intercept her people. She had not expected Gyokdal and Wajiro to put trackers on her as well, which was the only reason all 3 of them had arrived together. Gyokdal laughed loudly and pointed out that the kid was obviously one of his own dwarves, so the kid should go back with him. Privately, he was delighted, since the moment he saw a dwarf at the end of the trail, he finally had a legitimate excuse. Ellie went red in the face and told him he was shameless. Then old Wajiro spoke up and suggested that since the Blood Elves had already secured half control of the territory core, perhaps Ellie could let this kid stand as compensation for himself and Gyokdal. The 3 of them stood in a ring around me, dividing me up like a cut of meat, without once asking what I thought about it. I was thrilled about it. Let them argue as long as they liked, because every second they spent on it was a second I got to think. My mind kept racing, and it kept coming back empty. In the worst case, I would burn a teleportation array to get us out, and worry about the slave mark afterward. I looked at Dillis and Philotia and said quietly that I would build a teleportation array in a moment, and that they should follow me through it. Dillis brightened immediately, having had no idea I was carrying a way out. Philotia frowned and said it would only buy us a short escape, since there were tracking marks hidden inside the slave marks, and until those were dealt with, we would not get away at all. I told her the alternative was finishing right here. I knew perfectly well it was a bad plan. Bad plans are what you use when the good ones did not show up. Then I told Dillis to hand over the jade pendant she had shown me earlier, because I had a way to be rid of these 3 completely. She produced it at once, and I checked it, and it was the void jade pendant, the item that opens a void small world. I looked at Felocia while I held it and thought that this thing was tied to her after all. She was staring at the pendant, and what moved through her eyes was a tangle of things at once, conflict and reluctance and something close to homesickness. I asked her whether she was sure she wanted to use it. She looked up at me, surprised, since the question itself told her that I knew what the pendant did. I told her I had a skill that detects information. She accepted that and said this was the only road left, then told the 2 of us to stay behind her because she would protect us. Dillis objected and asked whether she should not be the one protecting the 2 of them. I had no doubts about Philotia at all, which is exactly why my heart skipped, and I asked her quickly whether she was planning to use her talent. She asked how I could possibly know that. I told her we should just use my teleportation array instead, and that these few people were not worth her life. She said she would not lose her life in her face when she said it did not leave room for argument, so I stopped arguing. Wajiro told me to come with them. I looked at all 3 of them and gave him my brightest smile, then asked the old man whether he thought he was worthy. I pointed out that I was a dwarf, so if I was choosing anything I would be going with the dwarves. Gyokdal burst out laughing and told Wajiro it looked like the kid was staying in Dwarf City. Wajiro soured on the spot, and said nothing at all, just fixed a heavy stare on me. So I turned to Ellie and asked whether the Blood Elf had nothing to say, and whether the Blood Elf clan was so weak that she did not dare open her mouth. Ellie smiled charmingly and told me to stop trying to provoke them. because an agreement had been reached and I belonged to the other two races. I shrugged and told her that in that case I would not play with them anymore and said goodbye. None of them took that seriously for about 1 second. Then the jade pendant in Felocia's hand lit up white, floated into the air and dissolved fast, and a circular portal opened where it had been. Through it, faintly, you could see a world. All three of them caught up at once and came at us, Ellie included, because not one of them had imagined the angel could open a passage into a small world. The value of that is beyond anything on tonight's auction sheet, and there was no version of this where they let us leave with it. I turned to look at Felicia and saw a layer of white light rise off her body, and then she softly spoke the name of the Archangel Guardian Art. 3 8-winged angels formed out of the empty air above us, hovering there, and 3 streams of golden light poured down and wrapped around the 3 of us. She shouted at us to go and reached to pull Dillis and me toward the portal. Before her hand reached me, a pair of white wings opened on my back, and I flew for the portal on my own. She was stunned for a heartbeat, then took Dillis up into the air after me. Ellie and the other 2 attacked to stop us. A long bow appeared in Ellie's hand, and she drew and loosed 3 arrows in succession. Gyokdal roared and his body swelled upward past 4 meters, and he swung that giant axe across at all 3 of us. Wajiro threw metal balls, and I had no idea at all what they were for. The arrows arrived first, striking the golden streams and failing to break them, though the light dimmed noticeably where they hit. The axe came next, striking horizontally across all 3 shields, and I watched the light stall and shatter for an instant before the angels above tipped more golden light down and repaired it. When I looked up, I saw they had each lost a pair of wings outright, which told me exactly how expensive blocking that had been. Then Wajiro's metal balls hit and detonated on contact and blew the streams apart, and the angels lost another pair of wings, replenishing them. 3 waves blocked, and the portal was right there in front of us. Ellie and the other 2 saw it too and panicked at the thought of us going through. Gyokdal roared and came on foot, while Wajiro and Ellie each pulled out a silver-white scroll and used it without a moment's thought. Silver-white light swallowed both of them and dropped them directly in front of the portal, standing between us and the way out. Everything I had left went out from under me, and I turned to look at Felicia. She was not looking at them at all. She was staring at the portal, and her whole expression had come apart, and what was in her eyes was pure hatred. I turned to look at the portal myself, and then I stopped breathing. Dozens of black monsters were coming through it. They were black all over, with no scales and no fur, just smooth skin, and their eyes were silver white. Their lower bodies were fishtails and they had arms, and they poured out of that portal the way hunters move when they have already smelled blood. Ellie and Wajiro felt the threat behind them and spun around, and when they saw what was coming, whatever confidence they had left drained out of them. Ellie began firing arrow after arrow, and Wajiro kept hurling metal balls. The black things flooded out and swarmed the 2 of them, and a handful peeled off toward Gyokdal. We did not get skipped either, since several of them wrapped around us. They could not break the golden streams and could only batter at the outside of the light. Felodius said urgently that we had to go now, because she could not hold much longer. The 3 of us ignore everything coming at us and drive straight for the portal. I am halfway into it when a black monster brushes past, bigger than any of the others, a silver pattern burning across its forehead and a long silver staff in its hand. That staff sweeps through the flowing light wrapped around our bodies, and the guardian angel shatters in a single stroke. We fall through anyway and land hard on open ground. Out of the corner of my eye, I watch the silver pattern flare and the entire circular portal come apart. In the last sliver of the gap, I see Ellie dragging out another silver scroll. Wajiro is already flying away in the distance. I stay where I am for a moment, looking at the empty air where the doorway used to be. That was the closest I have ever come to dying, and one more swing from that thing would have finished the argument. Then I get up and take stock of where we landed. The whole world is bare dirt and sparse scrub, dry and gray and empty in every direction, the sort of place that looks like it stopped bothering a long time ago. I ask Felicia whether any of those black monsters live here. She tells me the thing that shattered our protection is called a world-destroying beast. They drift through the void and attack the small worlds hanging in it. And since this world is already on its way to breaking apart, the ones we saw should be the last stragglers. Her voice drops on the part about this world breaking apart, and she does not try to hide it. That answer startles me twice over, once for what those beasts can do and once for the fact that the ground under my feet has an expiration date. Still, no more of them here is the only line in the whole speech I actually need. If a thing like that were still walking around, the 3 of us would be a smear on this dirt. I ask her what this place is. She has her composure back by then, and she tells me it was the angel realm before the world-destroying beasts finished with it. I ask whether that means something like the flower fairy world, and she gives me a long, surprised look. She says that is not the sort of thing a dwarf out of the underground world would know. So I let the disguise fall away and take my own face back, and I tell her I am not from the underground world. She studies me for a second, clearly thrown, and lets it go without another question. She turns and starts walking, and tells us we are heading for the core area of the angel realm to sit tight, because we can only leave after 3 days. She adds that while we wait, we can work out what to do about the tracking mark riding on me. 3 days stops me flat, because the spirit demon battlefield opens tomorrow, and if I do not show up there is no telling what the system does about it. Philodia explains that leaving requires the world source core of the angel realm to gather enough energy to shape a new void jade pendant. I ask whether there is any other route, and I can hear how ugly my own voice comes out. Dillis cuts in and says we should talk while we walk, since this is her first time anywhere outside the underground world and she would rather see it than stand in it. So the three of us stroll across that dead plain like tourists. Philodia admits there is a second method, which is to pour energy into the world source core directly and force the void jade pendant to form faster. I ask what it would take. She shakes her head and tells me we cannot feed it at all, because the core is ownerless now, beyond anyone's control, running on pure instinct. I point out that she is an angel and ask why she of all people cannot control it. She tells me the world source core does not care about race. The thing evolved out of the territory core of a heavenly mandate lord, and only a heavenly mandate lord can hold its reins. She says that is the whole reason she left the angel realm in the first place. She heard a new heavenly mandate trial had begun, and she went looking for a heavenly mandate lord who met the conditions, someone who could restore this place. Instead, she ended up in the underground world, and the trial is a human affair, and no heavenly mandate lord was ever going to turn up in a cave. Then she says there is no point chewing on any of it now, because the angel realm will finish shattering soon, and she has run out of time to go looking. The strange part is that saying it takes weight off her rather than adding it. She has spent years holding this whole realm together by herself, and lately she has been running back and forth through the underground world, doing the same thing in a different accent. Now the hope is gone, and under the unwillingness there is something that looks a lot like relief. I look at her sideways while she says it, and I do the arithmetic. It cannot possibly be this convenient. I am the heavenly mandate lord, so I clear my throat and tell her, more weakly than I meant to, that I happen to be a heavenly mandate lord, and I ask whether she thinks I would do. Both of them whip their heads around at once, and both of them ask, in the same breath, whether I am serious. Dillis is simply stunned. Philotia lights up, because she had just finished deciding to give up and hears Hope walking beside her on a dead plane. Then the light in her eyes dims again, and I ask whether that means I am unsuitable. She tells me there is no time, and that if the world-destroying beast had not wrecked the world source core just now, there would still have been a chance. I tell her I can try right now. She shakes her head and explains that not every heavenly mandate lord can hold a world source core. It takes a specific qualification, and that qualification only appears half a year after the heavenly mandate trial begins. I ask whether there is any way around it, because I am not built to let a thing go once it is this close. Then her eyes snap up and she asks whether I bought anything resembling a qualification during the trial. I think about it, and something turns over in my memory. I take out a sheet of white parchment with a colorful spherical pattern printed across it. The system lists it as a candidate qualification, a special item, and says that on purchase the buyer obtains a mysterious candidate qualification, which is exactly the kind of description that tells you nothing. I bought it out of the special offer store back when a full gold stone was a genuinely painful amount of money to me. At the time, I doubted more than a handful of people in the trial could have afforded one at all. I hold it up and ask whether this candidate qualification is the thing she means. Philotia stares at the parchment like it owes her money and does not blink. She asks, almost shouting, whether I actually have the candidate qualification, and I ask whether the thing can even be used, since I bought it blind during the trial. She tells me to move. We are going to find the world source core and try it, because she is certain this is the qualification the core wants. Then she is already up, scooping Dillis into her arms and taking off. I spread my holy dragon wings and follow her, because what else am I going to do? The item is literally called a qualification, and neither of us has any idea if it works. We come down over an abandoned city. The place is rubble now, but even the rubble tells you what it used to be, because the surviving stretches of wall stand tens of meters high and run more than 10 meters thick. Philotia does not glance at any of it. She flies straight over the ruins to the city center and lands in front of a wrecked palace. It was white and gold once, and now it is nothing but a few standing walls and a broken roof letting the sky through. She walks in without slowing, crosses to a corner, and presses down on one white brick with her foot. The brick sinks and a white gold button comes up out of the floor. When she pushes it, I hear nothing at all. A slab of ground a short way off slides aside to reveal a square passage about a meter across, and she tells us the thing is below. The passage is not dark, because every few steps down the walls there is a white stone throwing off a soft fluorescence. The three of us take the stairs until the space opens out. A huge glowing stone in the ceiling lights the whole underground chamber at once, and the floor has to be 500 square meters at minimum. It is also completely empty. Philotia crosses to one wall, lays her hand flat against it, and the wall slides aside for her. Inside is a secret room barely 10 square meters across. In the middle sits a white gold rectangular platform, and floating above it is a white gold sphere about the size of a grown man's head. It gives off a milky light with a faint gold thread running through it, and it is the least protected treasure I have ever seen. Felicia tells me this is the world's source core, and that there used to be a protective magic array in this room until the energy ran out and it could no longer be maintained. Her voice goes flat and sad on the last part. Then she tells me to try it, so I step up and put my hand over the sphere, and I am not nearly as confident as I look. I look at that setup and think about my own territory core, which lives under my bed. The system reports that it has detected a damaged world source core, that I possess the candidate qualification, and that I may choose to control it or destroy it. I nearly laugh out loud. Without a second of hesitation, I will the core to accept me, and the system confirms control, then adds that because of the damage, the world source core will automatically revert to its initialized state. The sphere shrinks under my palm until it is no bigger than my fist, and the light it gives off goes transparent, as though every element in it has been poured out. Only then do I feel the connection settle in, and it is thin. It feels like holding one corner of something much larger. The system answers the question before I finish asking it, telling me that the candidate qualification grants only initial control of the world source core and mastery of its basic operational abilities. So my authority is not enough, and nobody is going to tell me what basic operational abilities even means. I sink my mind into the core anyway, and the entire angel realm opens up beneath me from the air. It runs about 30 square kilometers, and it is a wasteland, barely any green, no animals at all, not one moving thing in the whole sweep of it. Then something registers in one spot, a flicker of life, and my mood drops immediately. If a world-destroying beast is still living in here, my grip on this place is going to be a very short story. I file that and decide to go look at it in person. Before I pull out, I have the core spin up a few void jade pendants. I could open a teleportation gate straight in and out of the angel realm now, but the energy cost is absurd. The pendants do the same job for pocket change. I lift my hand off the core and tell Philodia I have an initial grip on it and we can leave whenever we like. She already knows because she saw the void jade pendants appear in my palm, and she looks at me with her whole face lit up and thanks me. I wave it off and warn her that the core has been initialized, so the angel realm is not the angel realm she remembers. She does not care in the slightest. She tells me that as long as angels exist, it is still the angel realm, and that stops me because I had assumed she was the last one. I ask whether she means there are other angels somewhere. She says not now, but there will be, because she carries the most important building blueprints for the angel city on her person, and can summon angels in the future. She pulls 5 blueprints out of her space ring and holds them out, and I tell her to keep them since I could not raise a single one of those buildings in my current state. Then I raise the thing that actually worries me, which is that a realm with no defenses dies the next time a world-destroying beast comes sniffing. Philocia is not worried at all. She explains that world-destroying beasts hunt by the aura of living beings, and that the more life a small world holds and the stronger that life is, the more likely they are to come. Right now the angel realm holds a handful of us and nothing else, so we will not draw one at all. The one we met was simply a leftover that should be gone by now. That lets the air out of my chest, which reminds me of the life sign I picked up from the core, and I decide I want a very close look at it. I tell them about the reading, and we come up out of the underground space into daylight. The ruined city is gone. There is nothing on the surface now but open wilderness, and I am not remotely surprised, because when a world source core initializes, every building drawing on its energy goes with it. The chamber below survived because someone dug it out by hand and never wired it to the core at all. I tell them we are going to see what that life form is, and the 3 of us move out fast. It does not take long to get close. We land and go the rest of the way quietly, and the closer we get the less sense it makes, because the aura ahead of us is not strong. It is barely there. All 3 of us loosen up, because whatever is lying in that dirt is in no shape to be a threat. Then we get near enough to see the face, and we all stop. It is Ellie, the blood elf who was hunting us an hour ago, is stretched out on the ground with her clothes in rags and blood running from a dozen wounds. The 3 of us look at each other in silence. I have been standing here worrying about how to strip a tracking mark off my own body, and the woman who put it there has been delivered to my doorstep with a bow on it. I ask Philodia to patch her up, just enough to keep her breathing and bring her around, and she knows exactly what I am planning without my saying it. She nods, sets a hand on Ellie's forehead, and lets a layer of milky light sink in. Ellie's eyes open slowly. She sees 3 shapes in front of her and cannot resolve any of them. The last thing she remembers is blocking the dwarf, and then black monsters pouring out of the portal behind her, things that were extremely hard to handle. Then the special one arrived, and the moment it appeared she felt her death standing close enough to touch, so she tore out a teleportation scroll and used it without thinking. The monster destroyed the gate as it triggered. The space around her went chaotic, and the chaos shredded her before it dropped her somewhere she cannot name. She shakes her head slightly, trying to clear it. That is when I greet her. I call her Commander Ellie and tell her I never expected we would run into each other in a place like this. She goes rigid and her mind snaps clean, and she looks up to find the same 3 people she was blocking, except the dwarf is now a human. She takes stock of her own body and her face goes gray. Then she stands up on nerve alone, swallows the pain, and tries the only card she has left. She tells me we are very bold to offend the 3 kings, and that if we hand over the angel and come with her, she might be persuaded to spare our lives. I smile at that, and then I knock her flat on the ground. I tell her, coldly, that apparently only pain will make her understand where she is standing. Philodia and Dillis watch her go down without a flicker of sympathy between them. The wounds hit dirt, and her face twists, and she glares up at me and says nothing more. She has worked out that provoking me is not a survivable hobby, and that her rank means exactly nothing to this particular human. I crouch down, take a handful of her hair, and tell her to give me the method for removing a slave mark. She shakes her head and says she cannot. I did not expect her to still be this stubborn on the floor. I let a small smile onto my face, because if she will not tell me, I will simply take it out of her. She sees the smile and something in her goes cold. She says quickly that she truly cannot. That once a slave mark is set there is no removing it unless one of the 2 parties dies. I look at her a long moment and decide she is not lying. So I ask, with my expression going somewhere unpleasant, whether she is about to tell me she cannot lift the tracking mark either. She nods and says the tracking mark she can remove. She takes out a white jade tablet and destroys it on the spot, and I feel something quietly go out inside my slave mark. Then I ask whether she is carrying any slave marks of her own. Her heart stutters and she says no, that she is a commander of Elf City and not responsible for such things, and would never carry one on her person. I smile again because she hit it well but not well enough, and the flicker in her eyes gave her away. I tell her she has lied twice now, and that a 3rd time will see her turned into fertilizer for whatever is willing to grow in this dirt. Then I tell her to take it out, and not to make me say it again. She looks at my smiling face, and gets nothing warm out of it, because my eyes are telling her the truth. This human is genuinely going to kill her, and she does not want to die. As a commander of Elf City, she is nearly the highest thing in that world short of the Blood Elf Queen herself, and dying erases every bit of it. Being a slave is still better than being a corpse, and besides, a slave has time, and time means the chance to find a way to kill the person holding the leash. So she produces a slave mark, one she prepared specially for me, intending to collar me the moment she caught me. I use it on her, and the connection settles in immediately, and one thought from me now ends her. Beyond that, I notice my hold over Philotia has become significantly stronger, which makes no sense to me at all, and I make a note to ask her when there is time. I tell Philotia to treat her properly because she cannot die and she is still very useful to me. Ellie takes that in and is quietly pleased with it, because there is an enormous difference between a useful slave and a disposable one. Once her wounds close, she stands up and waits obediently for orders. So I ask the question that actually touches my territory, which is whether the 3 kings are building a new city up on the surface. She says yes, and that each of the 3 will send 1 commander, 3 commanders sharing responsibility. She does not bother hiding it, because the whole underground world is going to know shortly anyway. I tell her to give me the specifics, since I want their plan in detail while there is still time to prepare for it. So she talks, and she does not shade any of it. The way she tells it, the 3 kings came into possession of a territory core, and because that particular core can only establish a territory on the surface, they built their decision around that limit. Hearing it, I think even the important names in Cheonmo City might not be able to break a restriction like that. I raise the obvious question, which is that the Dwarf King brought the core out, so why go to the trouble of putting it up for auction? She explains that if Dwarf City walked up to the surface on its own, the other 2 races could never sit still for it, because the underground world runs on balance. So the Dwarf King put it under the hammer, and what sold was not ownership of the core but half of its control, meaning authority over half the territory's area. I nod along to myself, because in practice the buyer paid money for an extra quarter of the territory's authority. Then she adds something better. The 3 kings originally intended to take turns personally guarding the new territory, and after probing the boundary they discovered they absolutely cannot leave the underground world. I look up at that, because it is the single biggest thing she has said, and I ask whether she is certain. She nods and says she heard it from the Blood Elf Queen directly. Their island falls inside the scope of the Heavenly Mandate trial, and Cheonmo has laid restrictions across it. I smile a little, because that is good news on its face, and better news underneath. If Emperor-tier existences of that caliber cannot step outside their own world, then the question becomes whether every other Emperor-tier existence is fenced in the same way. Elder Mach. Suddenly that name sits very differently in my head. This island is not as simple as I have been treating it. The reason none of us has ever run into a gold-quality monster out here is almost certainly Cheonmo's rules doing quiet work in the background. I ask Ellie whether she is one of the 3 responsible for building the surface city. She says yes and calls me Lord while she says it, and the way she says it raises the hair on my arms. Her voice has no business being that soft. A king rank existence saying it like that is a status bonus to attack speed and nothing else. I ask whether she has the territory core on her, and she says she does, then hands it over. Inwardly, she is uneasy, because if I keep it she can never go back to the underground world, and the three kings will hunt her forever. The system calls it an incomplete territory core, a special item, usable to establish a territory with some authority lost because the core is incomplete. I look at that for a second, then toss it back to her. She catches it and puts it away, and although her expression barely moves, she is genuinely surprised, because she watched my eyes and there was no greed anywhere in them. If she knew I am sitting on dozens of territory cores, including 2 special ones that raise cave territories and sea territories, she would need a moment alone. I ask how the three kings trade with the outside world, and where all their professionals come from. She says the Blood Elf Queen used to be able to leave the underground world and reached agreements with merchants out of the Cheonno Islands, and those merchants keep branches inside Elf City. That lands cleanly, because it is the same shape as my Mansong shop, and it turns out those people really are everywhere. As for the professionals, she says they are transferred through special buildings that perform class changes, and the other 2 races run the same system. I tell her that is enough, and that when she goes back she should establish the territory honestly and behave exactly as she would have behaved before. She nods obediently, and I do not read anything into the nod because a woman of her rank does not surrender in an afternoon. That is fine. I have time to train her. Then I tell them all to come with me and start walking, because while I was riding the World Source core I saw that a few things in the Angel Realm survived. 5 buildings stand where the core pointed me. Platinum-colored, square-bodied, capped with round domes, magnificent in miniature. I know exactly what they are the second I see them, because they are troop nests. And they are troop nests that summon angels. Do not let the number fool anyone, since all 5 are gold-quality troop nests, which means every troop they produce comes out gold quality as well. I have never owned a single gold quality troop nest in my life, and I just walked into 5 of them at once, and I cannot use any of them. My grasp on the world source core is preliminary, which means I cannot control the things that survived inside the angel realm. For now this whole realm is a spare parcel of land and nothing more. Except it is not an ordinary parcel of land, because the buildings are locked but the mineral veins are not. I walk away from the troop nest with real regret and go look at what is under the dirt instead. The survey comes back very well. 5 iron ore veins, 3 copper ore veins, and more than 40 other veins of assorted metals. Better than that, there is 1 element gem vein, and there are 2 spirit crystal mines, and all 3 of those are large-scale deposits, enough to keep me supplied for a long time. Best of all is the last one, a goldstone mine, an honest-to-goodness gold mine where everything you pull out of the ground is money. The catch is that it has been dug nearly hollow already, or I would be rich in a way that changes the shape of my life. Even so, I am satisfied, because what remains in that mine covers the materials I need to activate the first layer of the War God talent. And once that comes online, my attributes double outright. I smile at a hole in the ground, and I am not embarrassed about it. I tell them it is time to leave, and that we will come back tomorrow and clear the angel realm out properly. Ellie hears the name and is visibly thrown, because she has been standing in a small world this whole time and had assumed she was somewhere on the surface. I crush a void jade pendant, reach for my territory core, and a spatial door opens with the walls of my own city faintly visible through it. I step through without hesitating, and the other 3 follow me in. Then I am standing on familiar ground looking up at familiar walls, and the feeling that goes through me is closer to homecoming than I expected. Scanning around, I notice trees pushing up out of the soil all along the base of the wall, growing at a slow but perfectly visible rate. I do not have a clever answer for that. All I can do is keep sending people out to cut them back, and I have no idea what the growth rate looks like on the 4th day, let alone the 5th. I tell Dillis and the other 2 that they are resting in my territory tonight, and head for the gate. The troops on duty see me and do not so much as slow me down. Inside, the city is still mostly empty, with only the residential district showing any life, which is what happens when 500 or 600 people rattle around a place built for far more. I walk the whole way to the Lord's Manor. The moment I am through the door, I find Hwawa and Mori, Windsor and Ha-Cheong-dae, and even Dalgi the little fox curled up with them. I go over and scoop Dalgi up and rub that fluffy body a few times, because it has been several days. Windsor asks, in that gentle way of hers, whether I have eaten. I tell her not yet, and tell Mori to arrange rooms for the 3 guests. Mori calls me Lord, says it is understood, and moves to go do it immediately. So I say there is no rush and we can sort it out after the meal. Then I tell Dillis and the others to sit down and eat with us. Dillis and Philotia do not stand on ceremony at all and simply sit. Both of them understand perfectly well that the slave mark makes them people of this house going forward, so there is no point being timid about a chair. Windsor and the others are obviously curious about the three strangers, especially about an actual angel walking into dinner, but since I say nothing, they ask nothing. Ellie stays standing because she knows exactly what she is now and is careful about it. Hua notices and asks her, honestly puzzled, why she is not sitting. Ellie sneaks a glance at me. I nod and tell her to eat with everyone, and she sits down fast and eats without a word. The rest of the table registers that something is different about her and lets it go, because they trust me. The reason I am being kind to her is not complicated, since I want her genuinely subdued. She is king rank. My plans for the near future need her specifically, and I cannot stand over her shoulder every hour of the day. A slave who fakes compliance and does the work badly is worth very little, so the only real option is to make her want the job. What I do not know yet is that her side of it has already started moving. She came into this house planning to find someone capable of killing me later, which would end the enslavement and hand her back her freedom. Then she saw the territory, and the thought arrived on its own, that a man with a territory like this is a heavenly mandate lord walking the heavenly mandate trial. Remembering how bored my eyes were when I handed her territory core back, she is now certain of it. On the Lord continent, a heavenly mandate lord means unlimited possibility, and following one might beat every year she has left in the underground world. She decides to watch a while longer before committing, because this is not the kind of thing anyone concludes over dinner. I look around the table and ask where Mayo Ryung and Tiger Mountain are. Windsor tells me Mayo Ryung and the others went to find their clan leader, that Tiger Mountain has gone to the tower ship, and that Dark Moon will be back shortly. I nod and let them fill me in on the territory while we eat. Then I take Ellie to an empty room. She follows me down the hall, getting more nervous by the step, wondering whether this human intends to eat her, and noting that there was not one male face at that dinner table. She has decided I am a pervert. I walk in, sit on the edge of the bed, and pat the spot beside me, and she sits down like the mattress might bite. I ask her whether she has decided to follow me from here on, or whether she is planning to find an opening later and kill me to get out from under the mark. I take her chin while I ask it, so she has to look at me when she answers. She is rattled underneath, but she is a city commander and does not hand her real thoughts to anyone. So she puts on a sincere face, calls me Lord, and says she has never once thought of betraying me. I laugh quietly at that, because I do not believe a single word of it. I kiss her anyway, and she goes very still, and when I let her go, I tell her she tastes good. She drops her head and plays at being shy, and there is a good deal of hatred in her eyes while she does it. Then I get to the part that matters. I tell her I know she does not want to be controlled by me, and I ask whether she was not equally obliged to obey the Blood Elf Queen back in Elf City. I keep my voice patient and reasonable. I tell her to follow me, that I will not restrict her movements, and that she knows better than I do how much more future there is on my side of the table. Then I tell her to take the opportunity while it exists, because right now she is useful to me, and if she lets this moment go, there will not be a second one. I see the flicker in her eyes and pour oil straight onto it. I tell her that her potential is already at its ceiling, and that I can raise that ceiling and make her a legendary hero. I tell her I can push her all the way to Emperor Tier, put her on the Blood Elf Queen's seat, or make her the only queen the underground world has. Her pupils shrink, because she did not expect anyone to say a sentence like that out loud. To be honest with herself, she is tempted, and the only question left in her head is whether I could actually do it. I can read that much off her face, so I tell her I intend to show her exactly what I can do, and that first she has to show me some sincerity of her own. What follows stays in that room. She works out what I want fast, and her face goes red, and then her eyes flicker once and she makes her decision and goes along with it. Her reasoning is cold and clean. She is completely under my control, and whether she agrees or refuses changes nothing about what happens. Since that is the situation, being willing beats being dragged, and it might even buy her a sliver of trust. The decisiveness does surprise me a little, and it does not buy her any trust. What it tells me is that Ellie bends with the weather and always, without fail, picks the option that pays her best. While she is proving her sincerity, my mind is somewhere else entirely, because tomorrow I go into the Spirit Demon battlefield, and tomorrow is not going to look like last time. Last time my strength sat comfortably at the top of that battlefield. This time the native races have been folded in, and top of the battlefield is no longer where I stand. Lee Chong-han alone carries king rank strength, which is a joke against newcomers running around at soldier rank and sergeant rank. And if the spirit domain got native races, the demon domain got them too, which means nobody can promise me I come home. My eyes come back to Ellie, peak king rank, only epic quality, and still far stronger than I am. With her on the field, I at least have room to move, so today I need her to submit in earnest, or at the absolute minimum, to stop planning my funeral. Afterward, I ask whether she is carrying any high-quality items. She says a few, calms herself down, and hands me 4. The first is a transparent test tube of milky white liquid, a purple-quality mana recovery potion that restores 3,000 mana on use. That is a very good piece of alchemy since 3000 refills a king rank character's entire pool in one swallow. The second is a card, purple quality, an Azure Ink Beast summoning card that summons an Azure Ink Beast with king rank strength for 30 minutes. Looking at it gives me a genuine chill, because if she had played that card back at the portal, Philodia, Dillis and I would have been finished on the spot. I ask her why she did not. She glances at the card and says that at the time I was standing too close to her, and that any unusual movement on her part might have gotten her killed before the summon landed. She adds that the angel beside me is very strange, and that even a summoned beast might not have been enough to kill me. I nod, because that is an honest answer and a smart one. The third is another card, a purple quality random resource card, which on use produces assorted resources in assorted categories and quantities. That one is genuinely promising, because I might roll something I actually need, and I am sitting on a handful of high-quality building blueprints I cannot raise for lack of materials. Getting those built would move my territory's strength forward in a hurry. The last is a purple berserk blood potion recipe, which teaches the refining method for the purple berserk blood potion, a potion that triples a person's combat power for 1 hour. Learning it requires an alchemist and a potion master, 4 purple items, and my 100 transformations talent is about to have opinions about all of them. I run the berserk blood potion recipe first, and I do not specify a type, because a recipe that high is useless to me with no alchemist in my territory anywhere near that level. Gold light flashes and a test tube lands in my hand, blood red liquid with gold shimmering through it. The system calls it a gold quality berserk blood potion, and says it raises a person's combat power 5 times over for 1 hour. My eyes light up, because that is a trump card in a bottle. If I run into a few king rank demon domain lords tomorrow, I hand it to Ellie and let her go through them at 5 times her weight. Picturing the scene puts a smile on my face. Ellie watches a recipe become a potion in my palm and simply stares. She can feel that the thing in my hand outranks the mana recovery potion she gave me, and the moment that thought forms, her heart skips. Because outranking purple means gold. The potion is not even the point. The point is that I can change what an item is and raise what an item is worth. And even if she assumes the quality jump was an accident like that is terrifying. I ignore her completely, because seeing is believing, and once she has seen enough she will make the correct choice on her own. Next, I put the mana recovery potion through 100 transformants, and this time I specify the same type. Gold light again, and what lands in my hand is a recipe. The system calls it a gold quality mana recovery potion recipe, teaching the refining method for the gold mana recovery potion, which restores 7,000 mana, and again requiring an alchemist and a potion master. I look at it for a while with nothing useful to say. Apparently the system counts potions and potion recipes as the same type of item, which is news, and not the news I wanted. I was hoping for a second gold potion. Ellie sees the gold light and knows what it means, and by now there are waves going through her. Once is luck and twice in a row is not a coincidence, and she puts it together that this is my talent. It also explains why I felt entitled to make her a promise that size. Her whole calculation changes right there. She decides that as long as she follows me, and as long as neither of us dies along the way, there is no visible ceiling on where this goes. Last I run the Azure Ink Beast summoning card, same type specified. Gold light and a new card sits in my hand. The system calls it a gold quality, hero quality improvement card, raising a hero's quality by 1 level at minimum, and all the way to legendary grade at best. I read that twice and smile, because Ellie has just landed in my palm and does not know it yet. She blurts the question the second she sees me look up, asking whether my talent can improve the quality of items. I nod, because there is nothing worth hiding about it, and hearing me confirm it out loud makes her draw a sharp breath. Purple items are gold items where I am concerned, and she knows exactly what that means, because in this world quality is the whole game. The higher the quality, the rarer and more precious and more powerful the thing is. It means gold items come to me far more easily than to anyone else, and it also means I can generate purple items in bulk, since blue items are trivially easy to come by. She says out loud that my talent is terrifyingly strong, and I let the subject drop, because whatever she imagines is more convincing than anything I could tell her. Instead, I tell her that her luck is very good, and I hold up the hero quality improvement card and tell her this item can make her a legendary hero. She does not react at first. Then it lands, and she asks me to say it again, excited and nervous at once, afraid she misheard. I smile and nod, and the joy that goes through her is physical, her heart slamming, her body shaking slightly. The thing she has wanted for longer than she will admit is suddenly close enough to touch. Without an item that raises quality directly, reaching legendary would take her an enormous span of years, possibly her entire life. She explains the mechanics when I ask, and quality promotion on the Lord Continent runs on 2 basic conditions. First, you have to be a hero. Second, your average attribute points have to reach the average for your level at the quality you are trying to reach. Her own case makes it concrete, since she is epic quality at level 24 with a normal average of 280 attribute points, while legendary quality at level 24 averages 350. So she needs 70 more points on every attribute across the board, and the only reason that number is conceivable at all is that she started at epic. For anyone lower, the odds are effectively zero, because each quality grants a different attribute gain per level, and the gap compounds. And meeting both conditions still is not enough. Promotion also demands repeated life and death struggle, walking the edge of dying over and over, dragging potential out of yourself by force. Only then is there a chance. Except now she does not have to do any of that, because a shortcut is lying on the bed in front of her. Watching her light up like this, I honestly do not follow it, because I do not know the fine print of the system she is describing. There are also enough legendary quality existences standing around my manor that the word has lost some of its shine for me, so I tell her she seems a little too excited. She apologizes for losing her composure and looks at me with an expression that can only be called fervent. She looks like she wants to eat me, which, given the last half hour, strikes me as ambitious. Then I ask the question that has been nagging me, which is why anyone bothers with quality promotion when heavenly materials and earthly treasures raise attribute points directly. She tells me there is a hard ceiling on that route. Treasures carry you only as far as the average attributes of your level at one quality above your own, and after that the numbers refuse to move. So if she took the treasure road, she would climb to an average of 350 and stop dead, and without a quality advance her strength would stagnate there forever. Then I take the shine off because I have to, and I tell her the card cannot go to her right now, since I need her staying at the Blood Elf Queen's side. I promise that once my business is finished, the item is hers. The light goes out of her eyes instantly and the disappointment is total, and then the second half of the sentence catches up and she has hope again. Once she calms down, she understands the arrangement perfectly well, that nobody hands over an item like that for free, and that she will have to earn my trust completely before it changes hands. Her only worry is that I might give it to somebody else first. Then she thinks about my talent for another second and relaxes, because a man who turns purple into gold will produce another one of these eventually. She tells me she understands, and that whatever I entrust to her she will complete to the limit of her ability, and her eyes are steady when she says it. So I paint the picture one more time, and remind her that I said she would be the one controlling the underground world. The first time she heard the promise, she wrote it off as air, and hearing it now, it tastes like a pie she can actually eat. She tells me that whatever I say, she will do, and somewhere in the middle of that sentence, the underground world stops looking like much of a prize. I smile because she has effectively surrendered. When I pull her information, 2 new fields have appeared that were not there before. Loyalty and affinity, and both of them read 75 points. That is a number I can work with. I stand up and tell her to rest today and get her body back, because tomorrow she comes with me into battle, and I am going to need her. She says yes, calls me Lord, and promises not to disappoint me. I nod, and on the way out I picture her rampaging across a battlefield at 5 times combat power with a bottle of berserk blood potion in her. The mental image keeps me smiling the whole walk back. Windsor and Huawa are already stretched out on the bed when I get to my own room, so I head for the bathroom to wash first. I push the door open and find Dark Moon in the shower. She reaches to cover herself on reflex, which does not have the effect she intended, and I shut the door behind me. Neither of us comes out for a long while, and she has not been close to me in days. Out on the bed, Windsor and Huawa listen to what comes through that door and react in completely different directions. Windsor's face goes red and she shifts uncomfortably where she sits, while Huawa is delighted and openly wishes she had been invited to the performance. When Dark Moon and I finally come back to the bed, Huawa takes one look at Dark Moon's glowing face and tells her, sweetly, that her singing voice is remarkable. Dark Moon's usually cold expression twitches hard enough that she nearly loses hold of it. I flick Huawa on the head and tell her nobody else in this house is that mischievous, and she wrinkles her nose and pouts and accuses me of playing favorites. Then I lie back and open the chat channel, because I want to know what the world thinks it knows before I walk into tomorrow. The first thing I catch is somebody remarking that it is genuinely strange how Big Shot Ha has suddenly dropped off the survival points ranking. That is news to me. Somebody else answers that they heard from Heo Chongpeng that the Big Shot is now sitting first on the territory points ranking instead. A third person says a big shot is a big shot, since even with all these second-generation arrivals showing up, he is still holding the top slot. Territory points ranking, apparently. I open my own panel and find that the old novice territory list has been replaced by exactly that. First place is Heya territory, a level 1 village at 5,873. Second is 100 Flowers territory, a level 3 village at 3,932. And third is Haywol territory, a level 3 village at 3,778. Fourth is 10,000 Demons territory at 3,356. And fifth is Clearwind territory at 3,234. Sixth is Element territory at 3,148. And seventh is Giant territory at 3,141. Eighth is Thousand Islands territory at 3,012. Ninth is Inkfeather territory at 2,983. And 10th is Hanyu territory at 2,782. Every one of them below me is a level 3 village. The numbers stop me. When I first raised my territory, my own score sat somewhere around 3,800. And 100 Flowers and Haywool have both climbed to that mark now. I got there on the back of several legendary quality heroes, and I have no idea how those two managed it. I do not think they hauled in a stack of legendary heroes of their own, since what a lord can carry through is strictly limited and nobody spends their whole allowance that way. Either their heroes are simply stronger than average, or they have been raising gold quality buildings. Either answer says the same thing about those lords, which is that powerful lords develop faster than everyone else. I feel the pressure in my chest, and I like it. I have no intention of letting anyone take first place off me, and although these people are strong, what I feel is not fear. With Ellie in hand, I will soon control the territory the underground world is building on the surface. And once that happens, I can use it to feed my own. That is the on-ramp to the fast lane. Add the gold stone mine sitting in the angel realm, and the first layer of the war god talent comes online. Doubling my combat power is a large word no matter how casually the description phrases it. I close the ranking and go back to reading the channel. The mood there has turned. Somebody says there is nothing to envy because Big Shot Ha is about to be finished. And somebody agrees that I only got lucky finding the island early and raising a territory first. They say my strength is decent only by newcomer standards. Somebody points at Clearwind territory, which Heo Chengpeng raised, and notes that it ranks only 98th on the points list, while the man himself is a top-tier general rank existence at level 18. Then the real news lands, which is that this morning the Lord of Troll territory, Kagi Badr, publicly declared he is going to kill me on the Spirit Demon battlefield. Somebody hopes I get lucky and never run into him, since Badr is level 17. Somebody else points out the part that matters, which is that Badr is a legendary hero whose attribute gains come in top tier every single time. After that, it degenerates the way it always does. One person says my living or dying is nothing to them, since I have never helped them. Another says he does not want to stand out at all. A third says he does not want to stand out and would rather find a rich female lord and lie flat. Then the whole channel derails into an argument about that man's phrasing and whether he typed the wrong word. And nobody remembers what the topic was. A serious topic in that channel has the lifespan of a mayfly. I still got what I came for, which is a list of territorial lords unhappy enough with me to say so in public. That does not surprise me, and it does not particularly worry me. I only hope they turn out to be capable, and more importantly, that they are carrying enough treasure on them to make killing them profitable. I am still thinking that through when something goes wrong at the edge of my attention, and it turns out Hua is being mischievous again. I glare at her and tell her without words to behave, and she does not care at all, and instead she smiles at me provocatively and does a small, extremely accurate impression of Ellie. That is too bold and too presumptuous, and it clearly needs correcting. I am about to correct it when I feel a scorching stare from the other side of the bed, and I turn my head and find Windsor looking at me. Windsor is teaming up with Hua, and this kind of arrogance cannot be encouraged and must be firmly put down. So I do what any responsible lord would do and meet the problem head on. A warrior never retreats. The battle runs long. Everyone commits everything they have. Every technique gets used, and eventually even Dark Moon is pulled in, which expands the front considerably. I wake up in a soft tangle of white, get myself upright, take care of my morning routine, and walk out of the Lord's Manor to set up the teleportation array. Luckily, the distance from here to the Underground World's array is inside range. Otherwise, I would have had to place it somewhere else entirely, and the whole morning would have gone sideways. Back at the manor, Mori has breakfast on the table, and Ha Chong-dae, Dalgi, Dillis, Philotia, and Ellie are already eating. I sit down with them and pull up Dalgi's information while I eat, because I have been curious what the Emperor's blood did to her. She reads as gold quality at level 7 now, with strength 59, agility 63, and defense 58. Her skill list carries Bewilder, Heartstring Pull and Control. Her talent is listed as Awakening, and her race is still Nine-Tailed Charming Heart Fox. The level gain is nice and the new skill is nicer, but the line that actually matters is the talent, because Dalgi is on the verge of awakening it. A talent can outweigh a whole skill list, and I find myself genuinely looking forward to whatever she wakes up with. Then I check Ha Chong-dae. Legendary quality, level 6, sergeant rank, with strength, agility, defense, and wisdom all sitting at 44, and mana at 440. Her profession reads Hero and Elf Envoy, and her skills are 10 Arrow Volley, Entangling Vine Arrow, Flower Burst Arrow, life healing, and life drain. Her equipment is the purple magic shadow bow. Her talent is crystal seeking, and her race is wood elf. Almost nothing has moved on her sheet, and her level has not even ticked up once. I look across at Philosha and Dillis and ask whether the two of them intend to join my territory going forward. Dillis rolls her eyes at me and says of course they will, since where else is there? She points out that the underground world is certainly hunting both of them and neither can go back. She signed a contract with me before all this, originally expecting that once the job was done we would go our separate ways and rarely cross paths again. Instead, she has ended up in my house permanently, and she does not complain about it, because without me she would never have gotten Philodia out. I smile and look at Philodia, and Philodia nods at me, which says the same thing without the eye rolling. I know she basically cannot leave me at this point, and I have been uneasy about it anyway, because this woman is a hidden big shot, and hidden big shots make me nervous. With a nod, I finally relax. Their loyalty and affinity have both appeared on their sheets now, running around 72 points each. What surprises me is everything else on Philosia's panel. She reads as normal quality, level 2, sergeant rank, with strength, agility, defense, and wisdom, all at 6 and mana at 60. Her profession listed as hero and holy arbiter. Her skill list is absurd for those numbers. It runs Holy Light Sword, Angel Shield, Holy Slash, Holy Healing, Light of Holy Judgment, and Archangel Guardian Art. Then Annihilation, Absolute Sanction, Commandment Domination, Angelic Pantheon, and Holy Light Soul Incineration Art. She has no equipment at all. Her talents are Burning Essence, Holy Body, and Martyrdom Detonation. And her race is Angel Race. Her level has fallen to 2, which is very close to the floor of the world. So I ask her why it dropped, even though I already have a guess. She says it casually, that it is her talent, Burning Essence, which grants enormous strength for a short window at the cost of her level and her quality. That confirms it, and it explains the way she erupted yesterday. The problem is that her quality has bottomed out at normal, which will badly throttle every attribute point she earns from here on. I think about handing her the hero quality improvement card from last night, and immediately decide I cannot say a word about it now. I promised that card to Ellie, and I need Ellie functioning today, so it waits until we are back from the Spirit Demon battlefield. I check Ellie while I am at it, and her loyalty and affinity toward me have both cleared 60 points. That is a workable number, since she is not going to sell me out on impulse and I can trust her inside reason. Windsor and the other two come out and sit down to eat, so I pull their sheets too. Windsor is legendary at level 11, sergeant rank, with strength 100 plus 30 and 10 more from gear, agility 107 plus 5, and defense 107 plus 32.1. Her wisdom is 100 and her mana is 1000 plus 300. Her profession reading hero and light envoy. Her skills run Angel of Light in purple, healing, light arrow, light shield, entangling spell in blue, bewilder in blue, holy light guard in blue, and magic eye. Her equipment is the purple authority light, the purple star pattern armor, and a green hairpin. She has no talent, her race is human, and her loyalty is a flat 100. She has climbed to 11 and will hit 12 before long, which means my territory is about to have its first general rank hero. Ha Huawal, who everybody in this house calls Huawa, is also legendary at level 11, and sergeant rank, listed with the title Fire Marshal God. Her strength is 100 plus 40, her agility 101, her defense 100 plus 30. Her wisdom is 100 and her mana 1000, with her profession reading hero and fire element controller. Her skills are Fireball, Fire Marshal God in 3 forms, Firebinding Fire Shield, the gold quality Fire Meteor Fall, and Magic Eye. She carries the gold Bloodthirsty Demon Spear and the purple Heavenly Silk Armor. Her talent is Spirit Platform Seed, her race is Elemental Elf, and her loyalty and affinity both read 100. Between the 3, Fire Marshal God forms her real combat power, runs far above the raw numbers, which makes her a true legendary general rank existence. Her talent I already know about, and Yeomgira's spark is still alive inside that Spirit Platform Seed. Last I look at Dark Moon, legendary level 10, sergeant rank, with strength 97 plus 19.4, agility 99 plus 29.1, and defense 98 plus 29.4. Her wisdom is 94 and her mana is 940. Her profession reading hero and night hunter. Her skills are the gold quality Dark Domain, Darkness Blade, Darkness Erosion, Moon Shadow, Blue Shadow Lurk, Blue Flying Sword Technique, and Magic Eye. Her equipment is the purple Flowing Light Boots, the blue Wind Breaking Blade, and the purple Black Pattern Armor. She has no talent, her race is Dark Nethercat race, and her loyalty and affinity are both 100. She has reached 10, and by my estimate 11 is not far off. Now for the part I have been putting off, which is that the Spirit Demon battlefield cannot take everyone, and somebody has to hold the territory. I decide to leave Huawa, Dark Moon, and Ha Changde behind, and I am not bringing Philotia or Dillis either. Philotia simply cannot contribute in her current state, and Dillis fights almost entirely in melee, which is close to useless in a naval battle. Dark Moon stays for the same reason. The real reason, though, is that I am stronger than Dark Moon now and no longer need her standing at my shoulder keeping me alive. Manhwa stays because a territory needs someone capable of holding the walls, and that is exactly what she is for. So this trip I am taking Windsor, Dalgi, Harui, Little Blue, Ellie, and Tiger Mountain. Little Blue picks herself because she has an enormous advantage in naval combat, and it would be stupid to leave her home. Windsor covers healing, and Dalgi provides support with a skill set that fits this kind of fight well. Tiger Mountain picks herself too, since she will be in the front row taking the hits and holding the line, while Ellie is my heavy weapon and exists purely for offense. That leaves me filling gaps and going wherever the hole opens. The plan for the Spirit Demon battlefield is simple and greedy. I intend to go on a killing spree, take down as many demon domain lords as I can reach, and turn all of it into merit points, because merit points are money. 1 merit point is 1 purple stone. An opportunity like that comes rarely enough that letting it pass would be criminal, so I am going out there to make an obscene profit. I lay out the assignments and nobody objects except Manhwa, who naturally wants to come along and will not be talked out of it until I refuse her without hesitation. She reads my face, drops it, and sulks about it quietly. Then Sokpan runs into the room. The moment he sees me, he reports that a group of monsters is moving toward our territory, and my expression changes on the spot. I cannot think of a worse morning for this, with the Spirit Demon battlefield opening in hours, and no way to be in 2 places at once. I am already standing as I tell him we will talk while we walk, and everyone falls in behind me. I ask him for scale and strength, and he tells me there are quite a lot of them, somewhere around 400 to 500 by his estimate. He says their overall strength is not high, but the leader's aura is very powerful. We get up on the city wall and I look out, and the monster group is already visible in the distance, coming toward the wall in a solid mass. My own count puts them at 600 at least, more than Sokpan said, and every one of them is the same species. That makes this a monster tribe rather than a random pack, and from the shape of them they are wolves. As the front rank closes, I pull the leader's information. It reads as a purple quality clear wind wolf at level 19, with strength 183, agility 212, and defense 171, carrying Windblade, Tornado, Clear Wind Rampage, and Stormball. That is a relief, because the leader is not strong enough to be a problem. And with Ellie standing on my wall, this ends quickly. I say as much out loud. Tell everyone to finish this fast and send Ellie out to handle the Clearwind Wolf leader personally. She does not hesitate for a second and goes straight out the gate and runs at it. The wolf does not run. It throws its head back, roars at the sky, and charges her. The rest of the pack charges as well, but they do not converge on her, and most of them come straight at the wall instead. When they reach it, every one of them opens its mouth and spits a green orb, which is the Stormball skill arriving all at once. The arrow towers inside the city open up and answer. The rest of us are not standing around either, throwing everything we have down into the pack. The flame shooters pour fire element arrows into them without pause, and every other unit on the wall does the same. Then I summon 3 mystic ice puppets, and the moment the 3 of them take shape, they charge straight into the wolves. The 3 mystic ice puppets tear straight into the Clearwind wolf pack, and watching them work gives me my first honest read on what we are fighting. A handful of standouts run as high as level 14 or 15, but the bulk of the pack sits around level 10. That is survivable, and I would rather end this fast than bleed the walls all afternoon. I give the order to send the troops out of the city and annihilate them, and the answer comes back from every quarter at once, everyone calling me Lord and confirming it. The gate opens and the squads pour through in formation. 100 shield hands and 30 shield warriors take the front, 70 rapid shooters and 5 flame shooters fill the middle, and 15 healers hold the rear. 30 spearmen stand off the front row's flank, stabbing into the charging Clearwind wolves and pulling pressure off the line. Behind all of that, I keep the purple troops in reserve, the extreme ice giant bear, the black knights, and the 2 silver-winged griffins. My only golden troop, the golden mark earth bear, works as an earth element controller from inside the shooter block. It drops small swamp into the pack whenever the wolves bunch up, and the mud pins their movement speed down where my arrows can reach them. Days of non-stop demonic beast hunting have pushed my troops up from level 4 to a general level 6, with a few of them scraping level 7. It still is not enough. The level gap between my line and those wolves is not small, and I can see the front row buckling where the wolves press hardest. What saves it is that Dark Moon and Manhwa and the rest are wrecking the pack from the inside. Dark Moon's Dark Domain, Manhwa's Fire Meteor Fall, and Windsor's Angel of Light are all area skills. Between the 3 of them, a good number of Clearwind wolves die outright. And more importantly, the survivors start to panic. A wolf pack that has stopped being fearless of death is a wolf pack I can beat. I drop into demon dragon form and go into the pack myself, and after that the fight finally tips over. We hold the line and then we start grinding them down. Ellie comes back carrying the pack leader's head in one hand and throws it into the middle of the wolves like a stone into a pond. The whole pack shudders and starts to think about retreating. Ellie does not care what they are thinking. She draws, knocks, and puts red arrows into them, one after another, and every arrow that lands detonates and takes several wolves apart with it. She is not fighting so much as operating, a turret with a beautiful stance, chewing through the pack from one edge to the other. The wolves break and run for the dense forest. I shout for the losses to be counted and the battlefield cleared, and the work starts immediately and goes fast. Seokpan comes to me with the numbers. We lost 20 troops, 15 shield hands, and 5 spearmen. Against that, we killed 213 clear wind wolves and pulled 3 items out of the field. I nod, because as results go, that is entirely acceptable, and I keep the other half of it to myself. This is the first time my territory has lost troops at all. Every demonic beast hunt before this was small groups and clean sweeps, and now I know what the other kind costs. The drop rate stings too. 3 items out of 213 kills, roughly 1%. I ask whether any of it is high quality, and Seokpan tells me 1 blue and 2 green. I take the blue one out of his hand without even looking at it and tell him the greens are his call. There is no time to browse, because the tower ship is waiting. At the city gate, I pick the troops going with me and settle on 104. 30 shield warriors, 20 shield hands, 45 rapid shooters, and 5 flame shooters make the body of it. On top of that, I take the 2 silver-winged griffins for the air and the extreme ice giant bear because it can actually fight in the sea. The golden mark earth bear comes because it is the only golden troop I own and I am not leaving it home. Then I stop delaying and take the teleportation gate straight out to the tower ship. Tiger Mountain and Harui are already aboard. The moment Harui sees me, she comes flying over, clings on, and rubs her little head against my face. I feel exactly how glad she is, and I smile and rub her head back. Standing on the deck, I take stock of what I am bringing. My heroes are Ellie, Windsor, Tiger Mountain, and Harui, and every one of them except Ellie is legendary. My 2 pets, Dalgy and Little Blue, are both golden quality. The rest is the 104 troops, half of them shooters, which is exactly the shape you want for fighting on water. Looking at all of it lined up, I go quiet with satisfaction. There was a stretch of this life where I did not have one single proper troop to my name, and now my heroes have climbed, with one of them at king rank. Not bad for a man who used to count wooden planks. Chianmo's voice arrives before I can enjoy it too long, and I am quietly glad I killed and scattered that wolf pack when I did. A slower fight would have cost me this entirely. The first global announcement says the first Spirit Demon battlefield is about to officially open, and asks the lords of every territory to prepare. The second announcement says this Spirit Demon battlefield will activate a merit point reward mechanism, and that we should actively kill enemies to earn better rewards. The first one, that has to mean the first time real lords are taking part. My eyebrow goes up on its own, because I did not expect extra rewards on top of everything else, and a pleasant surprise is still a surprise. The familiar teleportation gate opens and I take the tower ship through without hesitating. On the other side there is nothing but open sea, and it feels oddly like coming home. 1 week away, and the man coming back is not the one who left. Little Blue and the extreme ice giant bear swim escort on both flanks, and the 2 silver-winged griffins circle overhead. On the deck, 50 archers and 50 frontliners stand paired off around the whole rim of the ship. Windsor and I hold the middle with the others, ready to reinforce anywhere the line needs it. The sea moves before long, and something comes at the hull. Little Blue and the extreme ice giant bear find it first and take it under. Red spreads through the water and I cannot see a thing of what is happening down there. Then Little Blue surfaces with a delighted cry and I know it is done. I never even got a look at the creature that tried to eat my ship. For the next hour it is the same thing over and over, sea beast after sea beast, and not one lord. That is the part that grinds on me. The Spirit Demon battlefield that opened during the last arena event had 2 armies slamming into each other face to face, and that was worth showing up for. This is fishing. Tiger Mountain comes to me and reports ships ahead. I look where she points and see nothing at all, which is no surprise, since the silver-winged griffin spotted them from altitude and they must still be well out. Then the silhouettes resolve, and what I see improves my mood considerably. There are more than a dozen ships out there, split into 2 factions, sitting in a standoff and not yet swinging at each other. I push my speed up and close the distance. Merit points are gold stone. You are not going anywhere. On the deck of a Spirit Domain ship, Catherine frowns at the Demon Domain line facing her. Her side has 7 ships and the other side has 9. One of those 9 sits ringed at the back, where she cannot see what is on it, which is exactly why she does not dare open the fight. Running is not an option either, because if they flee, morale collapses, and this little group she has stitched together out of strangers comes apart on the spot. Then one of her people reports a new ship approaching, and her stomach drops, because another demon domain lord right now would be the end of it. She turns, sees a single hull, and lets the breath out. It comes closer and she can make out spirit domain markings, and her mood lifts further. A ship that size has to be a tower ship at minimum, which means the lord aboard is not weak. She goes to the bow to meet him and work out how they deal with the demon domain lords together. Instead, she watches speechless as the ship declines to stop, slides past her flank, and drives straight at the demon domain formation. Her mind offers her 3 explanations in quick succession. The spirit domain lord has sold them out. He has defected outright, and people are apparently allowed to play the game like this. I have not betrayed anybody. I simply do not want to waste the afternoon on diplomacy, so I am opening the fight myself. At my current strength, I do not need to be careful with a pack of ships, and it is not as though I am alone out here. There are 7 spirit domain hulls behind me, and they will come in once the first blood is spilled. I give the order. Little Blue and the extreme ice giant bear work underwater. The silver-winged griffins harass from the air, and everyone else attacks at their own discretion. Little Blue moves first, and her enormous body slams into a demon domain hull. The level 5 wooden ship lurches hard enough to drop half its crew on the deck. A demon domain lord spots her under the surface and starts shouting about a creature attacking from the sea, and his people rain arrows and scraps of magic into the water. She is already deep by then, and none of it touches her. My ship comes into range, and the rapid shooters and flame shooters open up. Ordinary shafts with fire arrows threaded through them. The demon domain lords scream at their people to defend, and their people try. They are civilians, though, and my green and blue quality troops go through them like a scythe through a wheat field. I keep the ship moving in a slow circle around the enemy formation with the arrows never stopping. Then Little Blue and the extreme ice giant bear hit that same wounded ship again, both at once, from opposite sides. The impact throws everyone flat, and the lord aboard discovers the one thing nobody on a wooden ship ever wants to find, which is a crack running through his hull. They do not give him time to fix it. The next pass breaks the ship apart entirely, and dumps every soul on board into the sea. They surface, see 2 mountains of shadow moving under them, and swim for the nearest hull in absolute terror. A blue arc of electricity opens across the water, takes one man, leaps to the next, and keeps leaping, and 6 of them are dead before it dissipates. That is Little Blue's chain lightning. The extreme ice giant bear closes on another swimmer and brings both paws down, and there is nothing left worth naming. I laugh out loud and tell them I am hitting them from the sea, the land, and the sky all at once, and ask what exactly they plan to block it with. Then I order the silver-winged griffins in 2. Catherine has been watching my ship close on the demon domain line with a warning half-formed in her mouth, and she never gets to deliver it. Before I am even properly in range, one of their hulls takes a hammer blow from underneath. What follows leaves her staring, arrows and sheets, a demon domain ship coming apart, electricity killing men in the water, a giant bear behaving like a natural disaster. She thinks he is strong, far too strong. No wonder he did not bother being careful. She snaps out of it and shouts for the attack, and she shouts it with real excitement. The other spirit domain lords are just as lit up and give their own orders, and within moments the 2 factions are fully engaged across that stretch of water. Only one ship stays motionless, the demon domain hull ringed at the back. The momentum has flipped completely, with the spirit domain side riding high and the demon domain side coming apart. The soldiers on that new ship do not look remotely like civilians. They look like troops belonging to someone who has actually established a territory, the same as the man they are hiding behind. On the motionless ship, a burly giant in black armor asks the young man beside him whether they are not going to attack yet. The young man has a fair face, a cyan pattern across his forehead, and a pair of white wings folded at his back. So whatever he is not human. He opens his mouth to answer and then looks up instead, because the 2 silver-winged griffins have started their run. Each of them spits a cyan ball of light, and where the light lands the deck erupts and throws men off their feet. He laughs softly, says it is interesting that they even have flying troops, and tells his people to prepare to attack. The giant answers respectfully, and then bellows the order, and every troop type on that ship comes alive at once. They are all blue quality, 50 of them, 25 frontliners and 25 archers, and every archer is an elemental archer, 15 flame shooters, and 10 ice archers. 50 elemental arrows come off that deck toward my ship, and I shout for defense. My frontliners step across in front of the shooters, and the golden mark Earth Bear layers a group skill over the top of them, Earth Element Shield. Not one of those 50 arrows does a thing to my people. I say out loud what I am thinking, that the first warship I run into out here belongs to a lord who has actually established a territory. Then I decide that is fine, because people like that tend to be rich. I tell my crew to focus everything on the ship furthest back. By now the spirit domain and demon domain lines are fully tangled. Since I already put one warship on the bottom, the 2 sides are close enough to even that nobody is watching me. My people cut loose, and 2 of them are frankly obscene about it. Windsor goes out as a giant angel and drives straight for the enemy deck to kill, and Ha Rui brings down golden rain. Ships in the middle of their own fights actually stop attacking to look. Against blue sea and blue sky, with golden light falling in sheets, and a holy angel stooping through it, the view is something. A spirit domain lord recognizes Ha Rui's skill and shouts that it is Big Shot Ha. Another one says the Big Shot has that many troops now and is unbelievably strong, and a third just starts laughing and yelling at everyone to kill them all. The demon domain side has the opposite reaction, their morale sagging, and all they can do now is pray that the territory-holding lord they are sheltering behind is strong enough. Baek Woo, the winged human youth, chuckles and remarks that he did not expect them to be hiding a figure like that, then tells Tapsin to finish it. The burly giant steps forward and roars, and an oval shield of earthy yellow blooms above the warship and wraps it whole. Every attack we throw stops dead on it and nothing reaches a single soldier underneath. I check him immediately, because the entire reason I sent Windsor in first was to measure this ship. It is my first fight against a lord with an established territory, and being careful costs nothing. The readout comes back and it is not what I wanted. Tapson is epic quality at level 20, and his rank is king rank. His strength is 243, his agility 121, his defense 251, and his wisdom 211, with mana sitting at 2110. His profession is hero, earth element emissary. He carries Great Shield Art, Earth Meteor Art, Earth Element Armor, Earth Spike, Gravity, and Heavy Blow. He wears bare yellow armor of purple grade and holds a purple grade Mystic Turtle shield. He has no talent, and his race is half giant. My eyebrow goes up. A genuine king rank on the other side of the water. Nobody I own can handle that except Ellie, and Tapson is not purely a wall either. He has attack skills, and if I let this run long he will start costing me troops. I tell Ellie to finish him, because there is no reason to hold back now that I know the shape of him. The only unknown left is the level of the lord he serves. She answers that she understands, and calls me lord as she says it. She does not get the first move. Baekwu tells Tapsan to attack and break the spirit domain ships, and Tapsan releases Earth Meteor Art. Yellow points of light bloom in the air, one after another, and then begin to fall. Every one of them is a meteor about 6 feet across, and there are more than a dozen. A spirit domain lord takes one look and announces that it is over, that the other side must have a general rank hero. Catherine freezes for a heartbeat and then screams at everyone to dive, betting on seawater to eat the impact. That wakes the rest of them up and hulls start dropping under the surface all across the field. I take mine down too and put it into full diving mode, since the shield carries defensive value of its own. The meteors come down into the sea above us, and the noise of it rolls through the water. Some unlucky warships take direct hits and simply come apart, and the rest get shoved around by the surge, rolling and pitching. Mine is not hit, but the water still throws it hard enough that I have to hold on, and I decide right there that I never want to sit through that a second time. I bring the ship up, and I am shouting for Ellie before we have finished surfacing. She has been waiting with the string drawn, and the arrow leaves the moment we break water. Tapsan is winding up for his next cast when the danger reaches him, and he throws Earth Element Armor over himself on instinct, earthy yellow plates sealing him head to foot. The red arrow hits that armor, and the force alone walks him back several steps. Then, before he can breathe out, it detonates. A hole opens in the shoulder of the Earth Element Armor and blood runs out of it. Baekwu has been calm this entire fight, and that ends instantly. He blurts out that it is impossible, that it is absolutely impossible, because Tapson is a defensive specialist whose strength ranks in the upper tier of all territorial lords. One arrow just opened him up. He does not get long to think about it. Ellie is already firing again, 3 arrows in immediate succession, her 3-star volley, all of them explosive. Tapsan feels them coming and his face changes, because he knows what 3 of those landing will do to him. He chains 3 skills back to back, Gravity, Great Shield Art, Earth Element Armor, then hauls out the Mystic Turtle shield and plants it in front of himself. Gravity spreads out across the water, the giant yellow shield swallows the warship again, and the armor on his body knits itself smoothly back together. The 3 arrows arrive and dip slightly as they cross into the field of gravity, which does nothing to save him. They are moving far too fast for the sag to matter, and they land square on the Great Shield Art. The Great Shield blows open. 2 arrows come straight through the hole and land one after the other on the Mystic Turtle shield, and 2 more explosions go off in sequence. Tapsan is thrown clean off his feet, his Earth Element armor badly chewed, blood all over him. That is what happens when the archer shooting at you has a strength attribute nearly 80 points above yours. Baekwu goes white. He did not think he could be unlucky enough to run into a territorial lord stronger than himself out here, and he never once considers the other possibility. In his mind, there is simply no way a lord on an outside trial could field strength like this. Yet, Tapsan shouts that they have to retreat now. Baekwu takes the advice, gets the ship turned, and starts running, genuinely frightened for the first time today. The enemy has flying troops and a monstrous archer, and that combination is a hard counter to everything he brought. Tapsan plants himself at his lord's side and pulls the remaining units in tight around them, fully intending to spend their lives buying time. He cannot work out why the attack stopped, so he does not relax a hair, and underneath the vigilance there is a thin thread of dread he cannot name. Ellie has not given up on him. She simply decided that trading arrows was wasting her afternoon, and she is preparing something larger. The blood moon bow comes up and a pale white light gathers around her hand. That is her plain hand skill, which lifts both her shooting speed and the weight behind her arrows. A silver white arrow forms on the string, with red patterns crawling across the shaft, and this is heaven-piercing strike, her strongest attack. Because she does not believe in accidents, she lays chasing arrow over it as well, so it will lock and follow. Then she opens her fingers and the arrow is simply gone off the string. Every hair on Tapsan stands up. Fear gets into him properly, and he casts 4 skills in one breath: Earth Element Armor, Great Shield Art again, and Gravity. He would have stacked more shields on top of that if his mana had allowed it. None of it is worth anything. The arrow goes through both earthy yellow great shields and leaves nothing but a small neat hole in each. Then it punches through the units packed around him and only loses a little speed doing it. His pupils shrink to points, and with nothing left to try, he braces and takes it. The arrow does not bother with the Mystic Turtle shield at all. It slides around the shield, splits the Earth Element armor, and buries itself in his throat, and his eyes go wide with rage. Panic and disbelief are still sitting in them when his enormous body hits the deck and stops moving. Baekwu is scared out of his mind. He never imagined an archer could be that strong and that strange at the same time. Regret arrives all at once, and it is very specific regret. He should never have fought his brother for this opportunity. He wanted out from under his father's territory, wanted to found his own and live free of anybody's hand on his collar, and now he cannot even keep himself alive. Certain the next arrow is already coming, he starts shouting that he surrenders, that he is done fighting, that he surrenders. I look up in genuine surprise, because I did not know surrendering was on the menu. If I do not kill you, where exactly do my merit points come from? I tell Ellie to ignore him and kill him. At the same time, I shout across the water that since he is surrendering, he should bring his ship in close, which is a lie with a purpose. It works better than it deserves to. Baekwu hears it and his heart lifts, because he is still holding a trump card, and that card only functions at close range. Being invited to approach is precisely the invitation he wanted, and he cannot quite keep the smile off his face, already picturing the look on mine when it goes off. Then his vision blurs and his throat lights up with pain, and when his hand goes up he finds an arrow in it. Fear and confusion sit in his eyes and the question never gets asked, because I am not going to answer it, and he has no time left to listen. His awareness thins out and goes. The units around him fall apart, since both of their leaders are dead and none of them know what to do. Tiger Mountain shouts across at them to put down their weapons and live, and every one of them does exactly that on the spot. That is the thing about units belonging to a territory lord. They are loyal to that lord and only that lord, and the only way to make them surrender and be truly accepted is to kill the man they belong to. Once they are accepted, they are not fanatics, but their loyalty climbs fast, which makes them excellent material for growing a territory's strength. I bring my ship alongside and take them in, 43 of them, since 7 were skewered by heaven-piercing strike on its way through. I check their levels and they come back around level 7 across the board, which stops me cold. These people established their territory a matter of days ago, so how did their unit levels climb that fast? I file the question and take the ship apart, which yields a ship core and no territory core, because a territory core requires destroying the territory itself. Then again, there are still 7 demon domain ships floating out there. Those demon domain lords have had a bad few minutes. They watched Tapsan's power drive every spirit domain lord into the water in a panic, and before they could enjoy it, a ship surfaced and started putting arrows into the sky. It did not stop until both Tapsan and the winged human lord were dead. Now that ship is turning toward them. They know the answer to the only question that matters, and the answer is no. They still are not willing to sit and wait for it, so they scream at each other to attack. Their arrows come in and die on the holy light guard Windsor puts up. I have Ellie work through them, and she kills all 7 demon domain lords one after another. I keep my own troops out of it on purpose, and not out of caution about my safety. The subordinates on those ships are civilians, and civilians count as territory population, and I have never once passed up a chance to grow my population. We take the prisoners aboard and then break the hulls, which gives me 7 ship cores and 7 territory cores. Counting the 1 little blue and the bear earned earlier, that makes 8 of each. Not a bad morning's fishing. Out on the water, ships are starting to surface, because the spirit domain lords have noticed that the noise stopped and are poking their heads up to see who is left. I stroke my chin and consider whether I should rob these ones as well. They are also population. 4 hulls come up while I am thinking it over, and all four of them just sit there looking at my ship parked calmly on the surface doing nothing at all. It is clearly not the scene any of them expected to find. Catherine stares at my ship with shock she cannot put words to, because a brand new lord killing a native lord is not supposed to be a thing that happens. What they are looking at means either this man or someone under him has general rank strength, or even king rank. One lord starts yelling at nobody, asking what he is looking at and whether he is still asleep, and pinching himself while he says it. Then he announces that it hurts, that it is real, and that Big Shot Ha is a true big shot who can counterkill a native lord. A female lord says, with obvious relief, that she is glad she did not run, and that following Big Shot Ha means this whole trip is about to take off. The last one's eyes are shining like he has found buried treasure, and he wonders aloud whether the big shot takes followers, because he would like to latch onto a leg. Catherine keeps a better grip on herself than the other three, though the way her chest is moving says she is not nearly as calm as she looks. She recovers first and orders her people to advance and approach the ship ahead, and the other three see her move and steer after her. I wait for them, and when they are close, I ask casually whether the other three ran. They nod, all four of them a little awkward, because even a team of convenience is still a team, and having your teammates bolt is embarrassing. I let it go, since these people owe me nothing, and I am not about to demand strangers stay and die beside me. What I am curious about is why this force stayed, and I ask. The Thin Lord answers that they figured they would never outrun the pursuit of something that powerful, so they might as well take a swing. He adds that they certainly did not expect me to solve the problem that fast. Then he tells me I am too amazing, and that it is a genuine tragedy he did not get to see me make my move. He is buttering me up. Do I look like the sort of man who falls for that? I tell him evenly that my own strength is nothing special, and that I mostly rely on my heroes. A slightly heavy lord jumps in immediately to say that being able to recruit heroes like that proves I am even more amazing. The other three all turn and look at him. Catherine goes a little embarrassed while the thin one openly enjoys the show, and the female lord is visibly annoyed that she was too slow to say it first. I tell them to stop flattering me and ask what they actually intend to do, whether they plan to keep drifting. Catherine opens her mouth, and the other female lord gets there first and asks whether they can follow me. I do not answer straight away. I look at the other three instead, and every one of them is watching me with the same hopeful face. Those worshipful eyes make it genuinely hard to fleece them, and I curse myself for being soft, because a Blue Star Idol would have had these four paid up and grateful by now. I tell them yes, they can follow me, but they will take my orders, and I add that if today's harvest is good, I can hand out some reward. The Thin Lord immediately protests with a fawning smile that there is no need, that it is his honor to follow and serve me. The Heavy Lord refuses to be beaten and says that since they will be at my side and I will be spending energy looking after them, really they should be paying me. Two grown lords competing at flattery on my deck. Can sucking up be a sport now? I cut it off and tell them to say no more. Just follow, keep their reward, and listen when I give an order. The real reason I am taking them is arithmetic. I expect to run into demon domain lords traveling in groups, and I am not afraid of groups, but groups scatter and run. With 4 more hulls I can surround, chase, and cut off, and hold on to more of them, which means a bigger harvest. When they see I truly meant it, all 4 light up, because they had been afraid I was only being polite, which is exactly why they were laying it on so thick. This spirit demon battlefield is not like the ones before it, since there are king-rank existences wandering around out here now, and the danger has climbed steeply. Having a big enough back to hide behind means their lives are no longer a coin flip. I give the order to move out and start the ship, hunting for the next thing worth eating. Ellie points at a patch of water and calls me over to look, and there are wooden boards floating out there, the leftovers of a ship that came apart. My pupils tighten, because those are almost certainly the 3 lords who ran, and there are no demon domain holes anywhere on this surface. That leaves sea beasts, and it means whatever did it is probably still close. I shout for everyone to be vigilant and watch for an attack from below. The words are barely out when the sea heaves not far off and an enormous shadow comes at my hull fast. I slam the diving shield on. Little Blue and the extreme ice giant bear move at the same instant to block it. Blue lightning erupts across Little Blue's body in dense interlocking arcs. Her thunderstorm, and the water around the extreme ice giant bear ripples and gathers into a huge ice cone in its paw. Both of them hit the shadow together. The sound of it comes up through the hull and the sea sprays white, and both of them are thrown clear. Little Blue surface is covered in blood, badly hurt. The bear is worse, with a hole punched through its chest and blood trailing all the way, and one look tells me it is not going to make it. The shadow stops dead too, which at least means the exchange hurt on both ends. I look at the extreme ice giant bear, and something in me actually aches, because a whole goldstone just walked off the board. I turn to the shadow with real hatred. If I do not kill that thing today, I do not deserve the name Ha. It surfaces, and whatever it is, my pets heard it. He roars and comes up out of the water and shows himself. A human body with the head of a fish, standing more than 10 feet tall and closer to 13. His face is savage, his eyes are blood red, and he holds a silver steel fork in each hand. I tell Ellie that if he tries to run, she should put him down. Then I drop into demon dragon form and go over the rail myself, because I want this one personally. Windsor's eyes fill with worry as I go, afraid I am walking into something. I am not. I already pulled the creature's information and I know exactly what I am dealing with. His name is Babel, blue quality, level 18, with strength 122, agility 119, and defense 121. His skills are extreme speed burst, melee mastery, steel fork throw, and 1,000 forks. The spread is almost perfectly even, everything hovering around 120. My own base attributes run about 90, and once you add my equipment and the 20% boost demon dragon form puts across every attribute, I am already past him on the raw numbers. I go in with everything on: magic dragon wings, demon dragon armor, demon blood boiling, and fighting demon dragon. All four at once and close on him fast. Babel catches my aura and settles noticeably, far less agitated than he was a moment ago. You are really begging for this. But no, beating you would be cruel, and I am a philanthropist at heart, so I will just let you die and skip the pain. The heavenly dragon spear appears in my hand and I drive it straight at his head. He catches it on a fork and slides it off to the side, and the second fork comes from my chest in the same motion. I flap the magic dragon wings and get out of range before it lands. Then I come back in and sweep the spear at his head again, and he blocks with both forks, leans away from it, and kicks me square in the chest. I go backward through the air, stabilize on my wings, and my chest stays tight for a while afterward. No wonder he has melee mastery. His reaction speed and his counters are fast and accurate in a way monsters simply are not. That does not discourage me. It excites me. This is the first time I have fought something that fights like a person, and there is no faster way to build real combat experience. He is not exactly human, but he is worlds above a beast. I go in again and start a chant while I move, bringing the spear at his throat, and the instant before he blocks it, I finish and speak the words for freezing spell. Without a staff, my casting is slower than I would like, which is why I started early. Blue ice crystals bloom across his shoulder and drag at his movement. His answer is fast anyway, blue light flaring over his body as his speed spikes, his fork knocking the spear aside while his body slips sideways. He does not slide far enough, and the heavenly dragon spear opens his shoulder. I do not give him the counter. I pull the spear free, back off, and come in again with another freezing spell. That becomes the pattern, in and out, chipping him, freezing him, slowly pressing him down, and leaving a new wound every time I pass. Catherine and the other three watch all of this and cannot process it. None of them expected me to turn into a demon dragon form at all, and the question going through all four heads is whether that thing on the water is still human. They cannot read my information, but they can read the merman's. Level 18, blue quality. To people like them, that is a boss, plain and simple, since they are excellent quality at around level 10, with attributes averaging somewhere near 40. The merman is 3 times what they are, which makes him something they simply do not survive. And I am pushing him around the ocean. The heavy lord mutters that he arrived in this world the same day the big shot did, right? The thin lord asks how the big shot changed shape and whether he was ever human to begin with, and he half means it. He has convinced himself I was never human back on Blue Star either, which would explain how I stayed ahead of everyone since we landed on the Lord continent. The female lord tells him that is nonsense, that this is obviously a transformation and I must have used some item. Catherine ends the discussion by saying it has nothing to do with them, and that all they need to know is that the stronger the big shot gets, the safer they are. Nobody argues with that. Babel roars, and it is pure fury. He cannot catch me, and he is bleeding from a dozen places I have opened, and he has had enough. Before I can come in again, he hurls one steel fork at me with everything he has, and it turns into a line of silver light on the way. I beat my wings and shift position and it goes past. Then something dark comes at me from the other side, and I swing the heavenly dragon spear on instinct. The second fork rings off the spear, but it is heavy and it is fast, so I do not knock it away and only turn it slightly. It hits my arm and takes a piece of me with it. I suck air through my teeth, because that hurts like nothing else. And honestly, now I understand why he was so angry. I ignore the wound and go straight back at him, because he has thrown away both weapons and you finish a man when he is empty. I do not get there. Phantom steel forks bloom into the air behind him, hanging there, dozens of them at least. My scalp goes tight, you absolute sneak. Can I even dodge that? I throw a shield over myself and cut hard to one side, and I do not clear it. The forks sweep over me and I know with total certainty that this is going to hurt. Then a blood-red arrow passes so close to my head I feel it and buries itself in the mass of forks behind me. It detonates, and every phantom fork in the air shatters at once. I am untouched. Ellie has moved, and I turn to find the merman already trying to leave. Before I can chase, she puts another arrow through his head, and he dissolves into blue light and is gone, leaving something small bobbing on the surface where he was. An item from a sea beast. I pick it up and the information unfolds in front of my eyes. It is an adaptive skill stone, blue quality, and it says that on learning it the user automatically obtains a skill suited to their profession. The learning condition is that the user must have a profession. My eyebrows curve because this is a good pull, and the only question is who gets it. I turn it over for a while and land on Ellie. For one thing, she is the strongest thing I own, so the stone does the most good in her hands. For another, giving it to her should push her loyalty up, and a more loyal Ellie serves me harder. The promise I made her back then was not a joke either, since I genuinely intend to raise her into someone who could hold the underground world for me. All of that rests on one condition, which is that she is actually loyal, because anything less makes her the most dangerous thing on my payroll. Loyalty can be cultivated, and if it turns out hers never climbs, then I use her for a while and find a quiet opportunity to end her. It all comes down to what she chooses. I walk over, hand her the stone, and tell her it is hers and to use it now because we are moving out. She stares at it, genuinely caught off guard, because she has only just come over to my side and she did not expect a gift like this so soon. She has no intention of betraying me a second time regardless, but the gesture still lands, and what she feels is being trusted. She does not make a speech about it and simply takes the stone and uses it on the spot. The notice comes through that her loyalty has gone up, and I smile, look across at Catherine and the others, and shout for the fleet to depart. My ship pulls ahead, and theirs fall in behind me. Then I pull Ellie's information to see what she got. She is epic quality at level 24 and king rank with strength 328, agility 334, defense 213, and wisdom 283. Her mana reads 2,830 and her profession is hero bloody archer. Her skills run 3-star volley plain hand, bloodthirsty arrow, burst arrow, blood-binding arrow, heaven piercing strike, phantom arrow, chasing arrow, and now 100 feather chasing arrow. She wears blue feather boots and purple tiger blood armor, and carries the purple blood moon bow. She has no talent. Her race is blood elf. Her loyalty is 83, and her affinity is 79. The new line is the 100 feather chasing arrow, so I ask her what it does. She tells me, with real pleasure in her eyes, that it works like an upgraded chasing arrow, able to pick multiple targets at the same time, and track and strike all of them. I ask whether that means she can track 100 targets at once, and the number startles me, because 100 tracking missiles fired in one volley would be an obscene thing to own. Her arrows really are comparable to small missiles, which is what a king rank existence looks like, and king rank sits in the upper middle of everything walking around on the Lord continent. She explains that the 100 is only a figure of speech, that the number she can send at once depends entirely on her strength, and that there is no ceiling on it. I nod at that, because no ceiling is exactly the answer I want, and then I ask how many she can manage right now. She says 10. 10 is still very good. Tiger Mountain's voice cuts in and I look up to find more ships ahead. Demon Domain hulls this time. There is only one of them, but meat is meat. I close the distance and tell Ellie to handle the leader and try not to hurt anyone else. She nods to show she has it and walks to the rail with that unhurried sway of hers. The young man on the Demon Domain ship takes one look at 5 Spirit Domain hulls appearing in front of him, and turns to run without saying a word. He does not believe he can eat 5 Spirit Domain lords at once. I see him go and send Little Blue to cut him off while Catherine and the others swing wide to box him in from both sides. Little Blue catches him, and with hulls closing in from every other direction he understands there is no exit, and turns to fight his last fight. Ellie takes the opening and one arrow ends it. Everything after that is housekeeping, and I take in every civilian on a ship, then break the hull, and collect one more ship core and one more territory core. I smile at that, because this Spirit Demon battlefield has been the easiest one yet. With Ellie aboard, I can genuinely lie back and let her work while I enjoy the weather. The next stretch brings wave after wave of grouped ships, some Demon Domain, some Spirit Domain. The Demon Domain ones need no discussion and simply get dealt with. The Spirit Domain ones depend on the reading. If their strength sits near mine, I let them join the fleet, and if it does not, I ignore them and let them go about their business. One group of 7 Spirit Domain lords looked at my 5 hulls and actually decided to surround and kill me. I burst out laughing when I saw it, and Catherine and the others could not hold it in either, which left those 7 thoroughly confused about what was so funny. Ellie explained it for them, and after that they were beyond confused. 3 more lords have joined since, which puts my fleet at 8 hulls including my own. I am satisfied with that. Setting aside everything else, the civilians I have taken aboard already number over 150, and that number exists because of Catherine and the rest. Without extra hulls to cut off the runners, some of those fleets would have leaked survivors, and so far I have kept a clean record of total annihilation. Sometimes the answer really is just more people. 8 ships prowl the open sea, looking for the next good meal. I am stretched out on a lounge chair eating a piece of fruit when I spot Demon Domain hulls in the distance, and laugh that the fish have shown up again. Then, before I can even close on them, the world does something I have no explanation for. A wall of white light hundreds of meters high comes across the sea out of the distance and sweeps over those demon domain ships, and the ships are simply not there anymore. I am on my feet without deciding to stand, my eyelid jumping, my scalp crawling. Strange things I do not understand frighten me on principle. I shout for a dive and put the ship under immediately, because that wall is coming for us next and I have no intention of gambling on what it does. The others hear me and drop their hulls without a moment of argument. Under the surface, my mood gets worse, because there is a second white wall down here too, tens of meters below the waterline. At the speed it is moving, I will never get deep enough to slide out from under its coverage. All I can do is tell everyone to stay alert and be ready for anything. The wall sweeps through us. There is one moment where the world tilts, and my sense of direction goes, and then it passes. And as far as I can tell, nothing at all has happened to me. That leaves me completely lost, because I watched those demon domain lords vanish with my own eyes. Ellie speaks up then, and her expression is serious, and she calls me Lord and says we are no longer where we were. I scan everything I can see and then send Little Blue up to look. She comes back and confirms it, and she reports that the surface above us is crowded with ships, no fewer than several hundred of them. That gives me the shape of it. The wall of light gathers ships and teleports them, and we have all been swept into one pile. Whether that was aimed at us, or whether we were simply in the way, I have no idea, so I decide to sit still and watch how this unfolds. Up on that crowded surface, on two tower ships parked side by side among hundreds of hulls, two lords are having a friendly conversation. One is a man 10 feet tall and heavily built, with two white fangs showing over his lip, and a face made for frightening people. The other is a woman in a long black dress, maybe 5.5 feet, with light purple hair down her back, pale skin, and a face worth remembering. The strange part is that the man's ship flies spirit domain colors, and the woman's flies demon domain colors. The two of them are talking and laughing with none of the tension people usually bring to meeting an enemy. Andina asks him whether he is not afraid of pulling in a lord stronger than he is. Kagi Badar is entirely unbothered and tells her their prey is not lords like themselves, but this crowd of still weak external lords. Andina smiles at that. Running into him was pure chance and she expected a hard fight out of it, and instead the man opened with an offer of cooperation. She listened to his plan to save herself the trouble, and she has to admit the plan is tempting. She tells him he is bold, spending an item slot on a thing like that. He answers that the item cost him a full 900 goldstone and that it is worth every piece. None of them can carry serious money into the heavenly mandate trial, and butchering a batch of newcomers turns into considerable profit. She agrees that the newcomers are their common prey, and the smile she gives him is charming. Then the smile stays and her tone shifts, and she asks whether he intends to spare her once the business is finished. His eyes flash, and then he laughs and repeats what he said before. There is no need for the two of them to fight right now. The risk is far too high, and these new lords are more than enough to satisfy them both. She nods and smiles and commits to nothing, and rather than press it, she remarks that he is in luck, since there are a great many lords nearby. He agrees that within a radius of 100 miles there are plenty of them, and the return will be generous. Then he reminds her not to forget their agreement, and she says of course, 2/10 of everything she takes. She looks off at a ship in the distance and says a new friend is arriving, though she does not know who, because she can feel a powerful presence over there. Then she looks down at a patch of water and makes a small surprise sound, because there is one underwater as well. A hull threads through the crowd and pulls up to them, and the man aboard is about 6 feet slender, wearing a black robe patterned in blue. He says flatly that this is their doing, is it not? And Dina brightens and says it is a lord from her own demon domain, and she means it. She does not fully trust Badar, and another demon domain lord on the field is exactly the leverage that keeps him from getting ambitious. Badar is unbothered and introduces himself as Kagi Badar of the giant demon territory in the Chilseong Sea. Here entirely in the spirit of cooperation between the spirit and demon domains, the newcomer gives only a name, Demon Domain Lord Faili, with nothing about where he comes from, then asks how the cooperation is supposed to work. Badar lays it out. They gather the lords of both domains, then kill the other side's new lords for merit points, population, and money. Faili is tempted immediately, because everyone in this trial is short of money and none of them could bring much in. His only doubt is practical, and he asks how a handful of them are supposed to stop that many people fleeing at once. Badar smiles with complete confidence and tells him a radius of about a mile will be sealed for half an hour, and nobody leaves. Faili nods and says he is in. Badar tells him the terms are the same as Andina's at 2/10 of the take, and Faili's eyes flicker before he agrees. Andina says the friend hiding underwater still has not come up, and suggests they all go welcome him together. Badar says, of course, and adds that with this many people in the net, there is plenty to go around. Feily's expression turns faintly contemptuous, and he says the friend seems a little timid and wonders which domain the man belongs to. The three of them look at one another, and then they turn their ships toward me. I watch them come, and my instincts go tight, because that looks like people who know where I am. It is not that I am afraid. With Ellie here, I have the Berserk Blood Potion, which multiplies combat power 5-fold, and once she drinks it, she is untouchable. Untouchable enough that an Emperor Tyr walking in would still be finished. The problem with that item is its one fatal flaw, which is that it lasts exactly 1 hour, and when the hour is over, she is right back where she started. So I did not want to be found this early. My plan was to stay buried until the situation clarified, and then move, playing the loyal sneak all the way to the end. That plan is dying in front of me. The three of them come on a straight line with no detours, which settles it, and I stop hiding my head in the sand and bring the ship up. Andina watches my whole surface and chuckles, then tells Badar he is lucky, because it is a lord out of his spirit domain. A flash of pleasure crosses Badar's eyes, since he has a trump card that guarantees his survival, and he would prefer never to spend it. He greets me, introduces himself as Kagi Badar, and says he is the one hosting this operation. Andina and Feily give their names as well. I look at Badar with what I hope reads as mild confusion, while he explains his plan to me, and my face stays calm the whole time even though my head is racing. These territorial lords are genuinely willing to go to any length. Also, why does the name Kagi Badar sound so familiar? I dig for it, and it surfaces. I saw it in the chat channel. This is the troll who was loudly promising to deal with the so-called First Lord, and he seems to find outside lords like me personally offensive. Badar asks again whether I want in, since I have not answered. Before I can, Andina remarks that my strength seems a little weak. I come back to myself, smile, and tell them that my own strength is nothing but I have a king-rank subordinate under me, and surely that qualifies me for an event like this.